Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by OddsShopper. I'm Dave Loughran at Lofty_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Running this one back, man, but sometimes, and we wish illness or injury upon no one, but sometimes it makes things a little bit more interesting when you and I have to do the strategy show, and then we actually get a relevant piece of news on a two-game slate, and that has just dropped.
Yeah, it's always nice when the show's a little bit different.
Marcus Smart is out. So no Marcus Smart today is actually pretty significant for a playoff game. Game 2, Boston Celtics down a game in this series after Milwaukee came in and beat them up a little bit at TD Garden. I think it's still called TD Garden. But anyway, we got 2 games to touch on. Happy to have you guys with us. As always, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Helps us greatly around here. If you like this content, you like the free content, even if you don't like us, but you like the content, hit that thumbs up. Let's get it up to 200 at least out of the gate. And if you want to join, hit join down below. You'll see it right under that thumbs up button that you definitely just hit. Get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis, the sweet badges, people iced up with the 1 year. I'll run that a little bit longer. It's going to get old soon. And of course, we'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with our premium Discord members. How you feeling, man?
Good. Ready to get excited to get back to DFS.
Yeah, you understandably took some time. There's no need to go out to Vegas, have some days with the boys, and then worry about all of that every single day. So took a few days off.
Yeah, I took a few days off. Didn't even bet a single game. So yeah, other than like one of my friends was making bets, and so somewhat sweating what he was doing. But other than that, like didn't pay attention to sports. Was a really, really nice break.
It's kind of funny. Like you go there, and to you, some people go to Vegas and like, man, I can't wait to go into the sports book and just chill. I went to see the Tim Dillon, his stand-up a month ago. And, you know, Parks has a new sports book, and it's fine. I mean, the people are, you know, the people that the patrons were, yeah, to say the least. But at the same time, I had really zero excitement at all about that, because you can just do it on your phone. You can do it on your, like, it's not the same allure as it used to be, where it was like you had to go to AC to sports better, which wasn't even a thing for a while. You had to go to Vegas. You know what I mean? It's lost its luster a little bit.
Yeah. So I didn't realize, I thought DraftKings had sports betting in Vegas and just didn't have DFS. I didn't realize they still didn't have their sports book either. So once I landed, I tried to like bet something. I don't even remember what, like as soon as I in the airport, and it wouldn't let me. And I realized that you couldn't bet there. And as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, well, that's all the sports I'm going to care about this weekend.
Yeah, of course. Anyway, got a lot to get into today. We'll hit on that Hall of Fame in a little bit. I know a lot of you guys clamoring to see your names up there. We got some new ones, as Jordan Klein pointed out to me. And then live before lock after this, you got Greg, you got Eric. They're taking you up and past lock today, all the way to 7:30 for the post lock OddsShopper show. So we got some fun stuff coming up along the way. Let's kick this one off. Milwaukee and Boston. Bucks getting 4 points, or 4.5, depending on where you're looking. Jordan, you can change that to 4. I think it moved, but 4 points on the road. And Giannis has to be the guy we talk about first. The guy had an easy triple-double last time out. I'm refreshing ownership right now just to see where we stand. Have we gotten... I don't know if we got an update yet since Marcus Smart. That would be pretty sweet, though. Either way, besides the point, it doesn't really matter because we know about Giannis. What are your thoughts on Giannis today? Not from a, yeah, okay, obviously play him, but are there ways to where you might be like, all right, I love Giannis, but maybe Tatum or Morant, and we could talk about Holiday later, or Jalen, some of these guys, some of the mid-range guys open things up more to where Giannis doesn't fit as well? Or do we actually have a decent amount of value to where it makes it easy to get there?
I think the Marcus Smart news makes it easier to get to Giannis for sure. You know, we don't know what the starting lineup's going to be, but it's going to make it so you can at least, at the very least, you know, roll the dice on guys like Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard. I assume one of them will start, but maybe you would get a weird starting lineup, but it's still a bunch of minutes that are available for several cheap guys on Boston to soak up. So I think that makes it easier to get to Giannis. But right now he's the second highest owned guy on DraftKings, but it's 39% for Brown, 39% for Giannis, 37 for Tatum. I think all of those are fine. Giannis is obviously one of the best plays on the slate. I think it's going to be easy enough to get to him where you want to, but I still wouldn't go so far as to say he's, a must play or like your lineup is bad if you don't have Giannis, because he is the most expensive and you can make some really good lineups if you, go to Jason Tatum instead of Giannis, or you go to Morant instead of Giannis, save a little bit of money and get off of, a value play to someone that looks a little bit better. So I think you can make really good lineups one way or the other, but it goes without saying that Giannis is one of the top overall plays, even factoring in salary, and clearly the top raw projected player on the slate.
For sure. And we'll obviously talk about the Marcus Smart implications once we get to Boston. And yes, chat, I don't know if they're assuming that you thought Smart wasn't. We know Marcus Smart is out. We mentioned it right at the top of the show. Marcus Smart out tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks.
I love how I say more value opened up with Smart out, and chat just starts yelling, letting me know Smart is out.
It's an odd thing.
It's like they just hear his name and just like turn into like
piranhas.
Yeah.
It's also possible that someone else in chat was talking about playing Smart,
sure,
and they're just responding to him. But sometimes it goes too quick to where I can't really pay much attention to that. Outside of Giannis, though, it gets interesting because you have Portis, Holiday, Lopez. We'll get into the whole Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, Javon Carter thing in a minute. But when it comes to Bobby Portis, I mean, he played an integral role in that win against Chicago. Not to say it was a difficult series, but I mean, you look at this now, man. He's played 33, 32, and 32 minutes. The last game where he didn't get 32 plus minutes was 25 minutes, and that was a 30-point victory over Chicago where he didn't close out and probably would have got to 30 in that one. So mind you, game one against Chicago, 23 minutes. Game two, 6 minutes. They lost. And I'm obviously not looking at it as, wow, Bobby Portis is the X factor, but they haven't lost a single game since he got back significantly in the rotation and started playing big minutes.
Yeah, and he's rebounding at a really high rate. In the four
straight double-doubles.
In the 4 postseason games that he's played without Middleton, he's averaging about 31 minutes per game. He's got about a 22% rebounding percentage. And I think that's important to pay attention to because you have, like, Brook Lopez doesn't grab a lot of rebounds. He'll box out. He'll allow Portis or Giannis to get those rebounds. So it sets up nicely for Portis. I don't necessarily think he continues to rebound at that clip, but even if he drops down to 18, 19, 20%, that's going to be really good. And like you said, the minutes have been there as well. About a 21 to 22% usage rate. He's averaging 1.16 DraftKings points per minute in those 4 postseason games without Middleton overall. And at $6,300, I think he's still underpriced here, even in a relatively difficult matchup against Boston.
I do too. He's got double doubles in 4 straight games, which on DraftKings, you'll take that little bonus there. You're not going to get much from him other than that. Like he is, it's funny with Portis, strictly a points and rebounds guy. There's essentially nothing else that you're going to get from him, but that's okay. I don't really have a huge issue with that. If he's a plus, if he's north of a fantasy point per minute, he's been well over a fantasy point per minute in the postseason. And I think you can lock him in for 30 plus minutes again, barring any foul trouble, which generally is never really an issue for him. What about Brook Lopez playing alongside of him? Because Lopez, you're getting at a far discounted price. He's obviously not as productive, but you're probably penciling him in for 28 minutes or so again in this spot.
For Lopez?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think 28 to 30 even makes sense here. I think that there's some times where maybe you see him get closing minutes. Sometimes you don't, kind of depending on how the game's going to go. At 4,800, there is upside there, but from a median standpoint, I do think he's priced pretty much correctly. So whereas I think Portis at 6,300 is still leaving some value on the table, I don't like Lopez quite as much. One big reason is the rebounding. You can't count on Lopez to go out there and rebound at a high rate because it's just not what he does. It's not that he can't do it. He just doesn't, and they let other guys grab the rebounds. So that's, I think, the biggest issue is you're talking about with Lopez, a relatively low usage guy who doesn't really rebound and doesn't really get assists. So he's good enough where he can still have those games where he's good, but it's a lot easier to trust guys that rebound at a higher rate like Portis does.
If you're looking just at rebounding in general for this team, it is almost entirely consumed by Giannis and Portis when those guys are on the floor. Like,
yeah, in the 4 postseason games without Middleton, Giannis is at 17.5%. Portis is at like 22. Over a larger sample, I would expect Giannis to come up a little bit, Portis to come down a little bit. But those are the guys grabbing rebounds for this team.
Yeah, they're averaging 35 combined rebound chances per game. It's just a monster number. Giannis is at 21, but still, or 20 and a half, but still. How about the fact that Jrue Holiday, usually with Middleton out, becomes a phenomenal play because of the way some of these slates have broken down, and in the playoffs, just the overall lack of value, right? Like, it's way easier in the regular season before the prices have been adjusted to say, all right, man, Jrue Holiday at 7,500, just lock him in. Even if a Giannis is in there, if Middleton's out, Jrue Holiday gets a big bump. Holiday still, I think, is a perfectly reasonable play today, but I'm not shocked that he's only getting 23%. Oh, wait, actually, we haven't gotten that update yet. I'm still not shocked that he's not insanely popular because you're paying 8,300 for him. But maybe that changes once we get an update, given the Marcus Smart news.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have 23% ownership going to Holiday, a 22% chance of being optimal. That makes sense to me. Like, just when you think about his price tag, and then you also think about his price tag in relation to the rest of the slate, I think 8,300 does, to borrow your phrase, leave some meat on the bone for Holiday. But 8,300 for Holiday just doesn't look as good as 7,700 for Jaylen Brown, for example.
Yeah, true.
So, you're going to have that. But then you also, when you think about it from like a roster construction standpoint, if you're going up to Giannis, it's probably pretty useful to, for example, save $2,000 from Holiday to Portis, or, some other similar comparable thing, when you talk about any of these other teams. So I think that Holiday on his own is a good play, but there's going to be a lot of times where, like, if you were to actually, let's say you're building 150 lineups, if you were to actually go through every single lineup, which you're not, but like if you were, there's just gonna be a lot of times where it would be like, oh, this lineup looks good with Jrue Holiday. And then you're like, oh, but wait, what if I make Holiday this guy and make, this other person someone else? It looks even better. So that's kind of the issue. To me, it's not anything to do with Holiday so much as it is guys elsewhere on the slate. But that being said, 2-game slate, guy projecting for 23% ownership that is likely to play 37, 38 minutes in a competitive game, has a 27+% usage rate in the postseason without Middleton this year, 26.5% without Middleton overall this season. I still think Holiday is a strong play. I think he's just a little bit more difficult, a little bit less underpriced than Giannis and Portis.
Yeah, and look, ownership bears that out as well. He's still getting like 23% right now. Maybe that comes up a little bit, but it's suggesting the same thing. He's a little bit difficult to get to. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because we talked Giannis, Portis, Holiday, Lopez. We can go through everybody here. Grayson Allen played really well in that Chicago series. I mean, he looked great, and he was knocking down threes at an unsustainable clip, but knocking them down nonetheless. He's shooting. My God, I mean, look at him. In those 4 games, he's 11, 12, 13, 17. I was just looking at 17 for like 30 or 20. No, 17 for 25, 26. Sorry, 17 for 26 in those last 4 games. I was just adding that up right there in my head, and I'm not great at that. But he's crushed it from an overall efficiency standpoint. And I think to some extent it kind of hurts Connaughton's minutes, but is it possible that Pat Connaughton, who is cheaper by almost $1,000 and has played in this series since Chris Middleton went down, more than 23 minutes only once and 21 minutes twice, is it possible that Pat Connaughton is the guy that could get additional run tonight?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I don't think it's the most likely case. I mean, I think expecting around 24 minutes for Connaughton makes sense. He's averaged 0.89 DraftKings points per minute in the 4 games in the postseason without Middleton. So I think that he projects well, even if you assume those 24 minutes. But he certainly could play more. I mean, there's no reason that you couldn't see Javon Carter lose a couple minutes to Connaughton, or Grayson Allen lose a couple minutes if he's playing poorly. So I think that One way or the other, Connaughton looks like a good value, but you certainly could see more minutes than we're expecting just based on game flow.
Okay. Anybody else you want to hit on from Carter to Allen to any of these guys? Normally we wouldn't need to talk about this, but such a short slate, it warrants a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, Javon Carter and Wesley Matthews are getting some ownership right now. It's just a matter of you're not trying to get to them, but if you have a great lineup and you just have to get a $33 or $3,200 guy in, they're fine. I do think it's very safe to say that Peyton Pritchard is ahead of them now in that category, in that price range. But just worth mentioning in that context. And then Grayson Allen, I think keep in mind, you can't expect him to keep shooting the lights out. You have seen the 3-point percentage come back to earth a bit, but he is actually rebounding at a decent rate. And I do expect 28 minutes. So certainly not someone that I'm building around or prioritizing, but he's 4,700 and only projected for about 12% ownership right now. So here and there in tournaments, I think is still fine.
Okay. Derrick White getting the nod in the starting lineup. So there's that. How many minutes do you think we get from Derrick White?
That's a good question.
Because he's very cheap. I think he's been useful in Boston. I really do. I think he's been useful, but especially just given how useless Dennis Schroeder was. But from a fantasy standpoint, I think all of us expected Derrick White to be a little bit better, especially when they had guys that were out. But we're just looking at his, and I'll give you some time to collect your thoughts here on where you think his minutes are going to be. 27 minutes against Brooklyn in that closeout game. He played 28 minutes in the first game, 13, 14 in second and third, and then 16 minutes against Milwaukee. So he's definitely had a volatile run when it comes to playing time. But he's clearly he's not a key piece of the rotation, but he's going to get minutes regardless. I think it's reasonable given the fact that Marcus Smart is playing big minutes. Derrick White is already playing anywhere from 14 to 27. I think it's reasonable to assume that you probably get around 26 to 28 from him tonight. But that's just off the top of my head.
Right. So he started 2 games with Boston where Smart was out and Tatum and Brown were in. He averaged 35 minutes per game in those games. I don't think you can just project that for him because you have had Peyton Pritchard playing well and can certainly cut into those minutes. But I would expect you're getting at least 28 to 30 from Derrick White here.
He played 35. Did he play 35 in both, or did he play 40 in one and 30 in the other?
I'm not sure. Let me see.
He played 34 and 36.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, it's the postseason. Things are different, but if that's the case, he's 3,800. 3,800. So I don't know. And no, look, I like I said, I didn't actually look at what I had seen. No, I was not taking bong rips. I figured 28, 26 only because, and I think you're absolutely right. I don't feel comfortable giving him 35 though in a spot like this, but yeah, 30.
You don't need to either.
No, 30 probably seems about right. His minutes are all over the map, but yeah, I think you're probably right. 30,
yeah,
possibly 35.
I thought he was going to play more in the postseason than he has. It just kind of concerns me the way that he's been utilized. But at the same time, it's not like you're getting minutes where none of Smart, White, or Pritchard are on the floor. I mean, you could, I guess, get Tatum or Brown with Grant Williams, the other, Tatum, Brown, Williams, Horford. I guess they could do that, but I can't imagine they're doing it for many minutes. So I think you kind of just have to get enough minutes for White for him to look really good.
Yeah. I mean, he becomes a clear top value. The only unfortunate part is that when you're playing alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you're not going to have necessarily the best numbers, but he had 18, 5 and 5 in that one game. You said both of those guys played, I'm assuming, right? Because he's only played 2 games without Smart. So
yeah, Tatum and Brown both played. I have no idea what the rest of the rotation was.
He had 18, 5 and 5 with a block. He had, actually, I can tell you exactly what he did. DraftKings points, he had 34 and 35. So, hey, he was a fantasy point per minute.
Yeah, so in the games, or in his most recent one against OKC, this was March 21st. Smart was out, Robert Williams was out, but Brown, Horford, Tatum were in. So you got White, Grant Williams, Jaylen Brown, Horford, and Tatum starting. That was one where White played 34 and a half minutes. Peyton Pritchard played 25 and a half off the bench.
Played 25. Would you play Tate or would you play Pritchard and Derrick White together?
Yep. Yeah, I have no issue with that because, well, for a couple of reasons. For one, it's only a 2-game slate, so opportunity cost isn't as high. If this were, like an 8 or a 9-game regular season slate, then you could make the case where it's like, okay, well, if I play Derrick White, I really want him to play 38 minutes, and if he plays 38 minutes, then Pritchard's maybe only playing like 16 or 18. But that's not the case with being a 2-game slate. It's not like you have an abundance of other cheap guys to choose from. Like, I would rather take 18 minutes of Peyton Pritchard over 30 minutes of Wesley Matthews anyway. I would take Peyton Pritchard over I would take fewer Peyton Pritchard minutes over more Javon Carter minutes as well, given the rates that they produce at. So I don't mind playing them together for that reason. But then also you could just get a game where, if White plays, let's say 32 to 34 and Pritchard plays 22 to 24, they both just end up being really good values.
I mentioned it to you this morning, and I talked about it on my betting video that I do 5 days a week over on the Odd Shopper channel. Check it out. This team is going to just shoot threes again. They shot 50 last game before that in the regular season against Milwaukee, 50, 47, 45, 41. They've attempted over 43s in every game, 50 in 2 of them. They just chuck up threes against Milwaukee. So does every team. No team allowed more 3-point attempts to opponents this year than the Milwaukee Bucks. So it would be surprising if you didn't see Tatum getting up, another 9 to 12 3-point attempts. Jaylen Brown ripping off threes. Derrick White's a terrible 3-point shooter, but he's certainly not afraid to shoot them. So I think this is just one of those games where if the shots are falling and they didn't last game, then Boston's going to have a monster performance on a number of levels, and not just from Jason Tatum. But taking Marcus Smart off the floor, elevates some assist rates a little bit and makes some of these guys more interesting than they already were. But it was already a good spot for Tatum and Brown. Yeah,
for sure. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You're talking about like a 30% usage rate for Tatum, around 26.5% so far in the postseason for Brown, but that could certainly come up as well. You're probably going to get 40 to 42 minutes from Tatum, around 38 from Brown. And they're just underpriced, sub 10K price tag on Tatum, sub 8K price tag on Jaylen Brown with guard and forward eligibility. They both really stand out. And then to your point about the 3-point shooting and Milwaukee encouraging that, if you look at the 3-point shooting numbers for Boston during the regular season, out of the normal rotation players, Peyton Pritchard led the way at 41.2%. Grant Williams was right behind him at 41.1%. So, thinking about guys that do what Boston that are good at what Boston needs to do to beat Milwaukee. Williams at 4K and Pritchard certainly at 3,100. It shouldn't be surprising if you see them have some success here.
Yeah, it's a great point. It really is. I mean, you're talking about a team that's going to need to inject some scoring from beyond the arc. And this, you obviously this, but just to bounce it off you, like, teams aren't just shooting threes against them because Milwaukee's terrible at defending threes. They're middle of the road. It's just you're better off ripping off threes than trying to score in the paint against Giannis and Lopez. And when you look at how Milwaukee's set up, they're designed. We've said this so many times, but they're designed where Giannis can just be an instant bucket around the rim, and then you've got a ton of good perimeter and 3-point shooters that are surrounding him. Like, it's a very tough team to play against. Teams have to resort to 3-point shooting against them. They don't have a choice.
Right, exactly.
How else do we want to approach this team then in the front court with Horford and Robert Williams? I mean, like White, obviously, you talked about Williams and Pritchard. That 3-point shooting, both 40+% guys, is interesting, especially if they start getting hot. And then Tatum and Brown is easy. But what about Horford and Robert Williams? I think I talked to you this morning about the fact that Horford, outside of some foul trouble, and one game where he played fewer minutes, I'm not necessarily sure why, but other than that, his minutes have actually been really high.
Yeah, he's been playing a lot, and he's somebody that Boston typically relies on pretty heavily to slow Giannis down. So, barring foul trouble, I expect him to be out there.
Hold on. Pancho Villa said, you said White sucks at threes. Last 2 game versus Milwaukee, he's 6 versus 11.
Yeah, I added that he's at 31% for the season.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was good in 2 games. I'm saying on the season, Derrick White at 31%. Matisse Thybulle's basically shooting it as well as Derrick White from 3 this season. That tells you all you need to know. So he's not a good 3-point, at least this season. I don't even know what his career 3-point shooting is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, with Horford, I think he plays a lot of minutes here. He's somebody that they rely on as far as defending Giannis goes. In the last game, played 36 and a half minutes. I expect you're getting 36 plus again, as long as he's able to avoid foul trouble. He's averaged around 33 minutes per game overall this postseason. So at 5,800, I don't think he's like a core building piece, but I do think that there is some upside there. And then Robert Williams, alongside Horford in the front court, I think is interesting because he only played about 22 minutes last game. I don't know for sure if he lost minutes because of the score or not. I know that Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Horford all came back, but it wouldn't be shocking if that was a case where, Williams was going to sub in to close out the fourth quarter and there was just no need to get him those extra minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if you get 24 to 26 minutes from Williams. I think projection-wise, expecting around 24 makes sense, but he's a 1.06 DraftKings points per minute guy as a starter this year in the games where Horford was active, and he's still really inexpensive.
Hey, your buddy Miguel McDonald had a question for you. I'm going to read it. Hey, Adam. What's up, pal? Glad to see you're staying hydrated, bro. And glad to see that we've squashed that beef that's been eating you up for all of these weeks. I know what you had to take a trip to Vegas. God, I didn't know there's this many characters. I know you had to take a trip to Vegas to get away from it because it was eating you alive. By the way,
what are you reading? Because I don't even see this.
What?
I said, what are you reading? I don't even see this.
He said, he continues. You're lying about meeting a girl in Vegas. We all know that didn't happen.
Are you just making this entire thing up?
He's going in on you.
Are you just making this entire thing up?
Nobody likes you. You suck.
Yeah, okay. I see what he said, so.
He said, by the way, Adam told me the story after the show. He definitely did meet a girl in Vegas. I just so we're clear, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to say you did it through Miguel McDonald. So do you think they will go Grant Williams or Horford in the second unit for Smart minutes?
I mean, well, both, but I don't totally understand the question because Horford was going to play, I think, 36 plus minutes barring foul trouble with or without Smart. Williams, I think, was going to play 28 plus with or without Smart. I do think you probably get a couple more minutes for Grant Williams now, but I think that the biggest impact is that you're getting those Derrick White starting minutes and you're getting more minutes for Pritchard, who only played 11 minutes last game off the bench as well.
All right. Anything else for Boston here?
No, I think we talked about everybody in the rotation.
Hey, I got something to tell you guys. And it is essentially the biggest no-brainer that you're ever going to find. We usually only do this around, Jordan, like Christmas and New Year's, right? Like around special occasions and holidays. We got the sickest promo out there. The only promo that's been as good as this is when we were doing like 75% off a full month of Awesemo Plus Platinum back in 2018 when we were brand new. 7 days for $7, $1 a day. If you look, Jordan, what's a weekly Awesemo Plus Platinum usually? $29.95? Yeah. Use the promo code Luka. See, we're getting better at this, keeping it simple, LUKA, or just go to awesemo.com/promos. It's way easier. You can just click on it. Just use the promo code Luka and get 7 days for $7, Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's also 77% off. Just a coincidence there, but jersey number 77% off. Pretty cool. Use that promo code when you check out. Go to awesemo.com/promos. Really, everything we have. This isn't just basketball. This is literally everything. Player projections, ownership projections, the NBA boom bust tool, the lineup builders, the top stack tool, all of our simulation tools for golf, for baseball, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, MMA, esports, literally everything. We have Formula One projections, USFL projections, tennis, soccer. If they have contests, we got content for it. 7 days, $7, awesemo.com/promos. Like I said, it honestly is the best promo we've run in a really long time. And you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on at top of that too. How long does this go, Jordan? Do you know? I don't know. I'm not sure what the end date is on it right now, but I mean, take advantage of it. It's a huge offer. Awesemo Plus Platinum. You have to be a first-time user, but $7, 7 days, everything, 77% off. If you've been wondering what the tools are, well, here's a really easy, low-risk way of getting your foot in the door and checking it all out. And be sure to join our premium Discord. Hop in there, join the Office Hours channel as well, where you got the pros answering your questions, helping you better your game. Check it out, awesemo.com/promos. All right. Jordan, skip Hall of Fame for a second. I'll come back to that, okay? We'll come back to that. Adam, I'm very curious to know where you stand. We got into it a little bit today, but on Jordan Poole coming off a near triple-double, 30-plus point, what was it, 8 rebounds, 9 assist game. Do you think he can continue to play at a highly impressive clip off the bench despite this whole team being healthy and getting full minutes?
Can he continue to play at that level? Absolutely.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm sorry, not like 50 plus fantasy points every game, but viable at 6,900 each game. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think so, because I don't really think him moving to the him moving to the hang on.
Good stuff.
I don't really think him moving to the bench changes much from a fantasy standpoint. Like, you're getting some minutes away from Curry, which is good for him, but he was going to play those minutes anyway. He's going to close both halves most likely. So I think you're still looking at, mid-30s in minutes for Poole, and you're just going to look at similar production. Like last game, he had the highest usage rate on the team. I don't think that happens very frequently. It may not happen again the rest of the series, but you don't need that. Like, if he comes in around 22 to 24%, and he gives you around 36 minutes at 6,900, that's still a pretty solid option.
I do remember that when we crashed. Jordan, were you here when we crashed the site with that promo? Yeah. And we did it like an hour before lock. That we never did that again. Yeah. We crashed the site. It was pretty exciting, but not for the right reasons. I do remember that. People were pissed off. Anyway, keeping it moving with Golden State here. Is Stephen Curry, you said today that he is your number 4 among Giannis and who else? Tatum. Now that you've got like Jaylen Brown, who's even more appealing, but also more value opens up, does this make Curry more or less attractive to you on say DraftKings?
I think it makes him a little bit less attractive because, for one, it makes it just relatively easier to get to Giannis, who we know projects really, really well. But also, when you think about where the value just opened up, 2 of the best value plays on the entire slate are both point guards with Peyton Pritchard and Derrick White. So I think it just makes it even a little bit more difficult to get to Curry, not in terms of, salary-wise, but just positionally. Are you just going to play Curry plus Pritchard plus White, which, that's fine, but it's not like you're going to want to do that in every lineup? Or are you going to give up one of the guards? I mean, Derrick White does have shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings as well, but Pritchard is only a point guard. Curry's only a point guard. And then that's in addition to what we talked about this morning, where Curry still has a massive ceiling and I think is underpriced at 9,100, but it's hard to compare him to those other 3 pay-up options in Tatum, Morant, and Giannis, because he doesn't, the rates just aren't the same. Like, yes, the efficiency is better, but all 3 of those guys have higher usage rates. All 3 have higher rebounding percentages. Tatum and Giannis by a wide margin. All 3 have Giannis and Morant have higher assist percentages. So you're basically just hoping that you get that massive Curry shooting game, which is going to happen here and there. And, it's not like it's shocking when it does. So I still think he's a good play. It's just hard to put him ahead of those other guys. And then you mentioned Jaylen Brown, who is just $1,400 less expensive and has better positional eligibility as well.
I mean, at this point too, if you're just looking at Ja Morant rebound and assist rates in the regular season and not accounting for what he's doing in the postseason right now, especially with the additional minutes he's playing, it's even more pronounced, right? Like it's even more exaggerated when you're talking about like what you expect to get from Ja compared to Stephen Curry.
Yeah, and with Morant, we've talked about it, and we'll talk about it more when we get to Memphis. Even with his usage rate coming down, it hasn't been a big deal for his production, really, because you're getting more assists, you're getting more rebounding when you don't have Steven Adams out there. So it's still been a very productive postseason for Morant, even with the decrease in usage.
Morant's, what does he have? I looked at it earlier today, but I think it's like a 31% usage rate, 47% assist rate, and 13% rebound rate. And something stupid.
In the postseason?
Yeah. Something real stupid for a point guard.
29.5% usage, 12.7% rebounding, 44.4% assist.
Right. But those are that's basically like outside of maybe a little bit lower usage. That is prime Russell Westbrook rates.
Yeah, and he's at 1.47 or 1.48 DraftKings points per minute. Curry, it is worth noting, in the 6 postseason games Curry has played, he does have a 34.5% usage rate. So you have seen his usage go up in the postseason. Not really surprising there. And he's at 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. So, just to reiterate, Curry's still a very good play. It's just that once you get past the usage, 6.5% rebounding percentage, 27.8% assist percentage, when you're just comparing him to those other top tier guys, he is the cheapest, so that plays into his favor. But he's more scoring dependent than they are.
Yeah. Okay. No, the current loyal users are not getting shafted on this one, fella. If we did it, we would go out of business if we were doing it for every person that's already been with us. I mean, come on, that's just, how it works. But I don't know why I waste my breath.
I've interacted with that guy enough. I am confident he doesn't know how it works.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know why I waste my. Plus, forget it. Steph Curry, we talked about him. One guy we didn't talk about as much this morning on the strategy show was Draymond Green, and he's still pulling a lot of ownership. We got to him, but not a ton. If Draymond Green is 41% today, like we haven't projected for. Did you see? I know you weren't watching basketball. Did you see on Twitter though why he was ejected?
I actually saw it during the game.
You did see the play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that game on because my buddy had a parlay that had the over in that game, so we had that game on in the cabana and we were watching it. And I saw that. It was not like I was paying a ton of attention. I didn't think it should have been a flagrant 2.
That's all I wanted to know. That's what I was.
That seemed pretty crazy.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, like I think like flagrant 1, whatever. Flagrant 2, I thought was pretty insane.
Yeah, I did too. I'd say definitely flagrant. We don't need to get into it. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. I just wanted to know your opinion on it. But so obviously last game, it means nothing. You're going to get probably 35 minutes from him today in the conference semifinals. Does Dre warrant the 41% ownership?
41 seems like it might be a little bit high just because you have, other guys in that price range as well. But I haven't built lineups yet. So, we have, so we have Horford at 39% at 5,800. We have Draymond at 41. We have Portis at 29. I will say, I think Portis is like, I don't think there should be that gap between Draymond and Portis, but as long as there is, substantial ownership going to all 3 guys, that kind of just tells me that it's a really useful price point in roster construction, and that Draymond should be getting a lot of ownership there because he is about a fantasy point per minute guy. I fully expect him to be getting 34 to 36 minutes here, assuming he doesn't tackle anybody on a dunk. So I do think he's a very good, one of the stronger mid-range plays.
Because Manny C used, and he's got the iced out badge, but used the emojis really appropriately. I can appreciate that. FanDuel last man in Robert Williams or Brook Lopez, Adams. Robert Williams or Brook Lopez. Williams is 55 and Lopez is how much? 53. So basically the same price.
I would go Williams. The reason being, like, I think Lopez's minutes projection is higher, but he's not as good a point per minute guy. And I think Williams gives you like just the ridiculous, crazy upside too from his blocks and defensive stats in general. So I just think there's kind of more upward volatility on Robert Williams. I think medium projection wise, they're pretty similar. So I just really want to go with what I think is a lot more volatility in Williams.
We also have him with a higher optimal lineup probability, 25% on Fanduel. This is our boom bust tool that I was talking about. 19% for Lopez. So it's not too far apart. The boom bust tool in that promo as well. 7 days for $7. Promo code Luca. There was another super chat that I got to find that I don't. There it is. D. Owens. Clark, Payton, or Lopez Brooks on Fanduel, Adam. Clark, Payton, Lopez Brooks. He said the lineup currently has Desmond Bane in it.
So Clark, Payton,
or Lopez Brooks.
Lopez Brooks.
And the lineup has Desmond Bane.
Yeah. I don't know. That's close because like Brooks is more underpriced than Clark, but then at the same time, I don't feel that different between like Payton and Lopez. I guess I would go Brooks Lopez.
Okay. Think before you type. That should be the motto around this way. Loughran and Adam, atone for your sins and give me, atone for your sins. If you have not hit that thumbs up yet, we forgive you, but it must be done. Shit, we're only at 266 with 1,600 people watching. I can't go see the family knowing that this is an abomination upon my legacy. God, what a shitty legacy that is. Getting likes on YouTube. What the hell are you talking
about right now?
Sometimes I just straight ramble, and like it's like you forget. You forget.
Dude, imagine how it is for me. Like I'm sitting here, like you're talking, so I zone out. I'm like, okay, he's about to start rambling. I zone back in. I'm like, what are we doing?
Stream of consciousness, reflecting on the miserable life I live, asking for likes every day on YouTube. Anyway, hit that thumbs up. 350. All right, we're a business. Anyway, he said, atone for your sins. Give me either your top 3, 2, or 1 best players for tonight's game. Remember, atone for your sins. Yeah, we got to make that a thing. We've been saying it around here for a minute now. It's got a nice ring to it. So, give him, it's a good super chat. I like that he's using my lingo. So top three favorite players tonight. Can be any price range.
Yeah, he didn't specify it. I'm looking at DraftKings, so to nobody's surprise, I'll go there. But Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard, and Giannis. But if you wanted to argue Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown at their respective salaries, I wouldn't argue that either.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap up Golden State here. Oh no, we had one more. I'm trying to hit on all these super chats. Congrats on sex in Vegas, Adam. El Negro Loco. And Zyolin verse FanDuel tournament best dart throw at power forward or center. Adam's still looking for that audio job at Awesemo. What's that mean?
He on the show the other day with Alex, he mentioned,
he's looking for an audio.
Yeah, and I offered him Jordans. I did what I could do. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do here. The paperwork's being processed, I guess, because Jordan's still here.
You can start tomorrow.
Yeah. Dart throw at power forward or center. I mean, Robert Williams has power forward eligibility too. I think that one's really interesting. Like, he's going to get ownership because he's so cheap, but I just think that there's more question marks around Robert Williams than there are most other players. Like, because if he were to just get 6 more minutes, he's one of the best values on the slate. And he's such a good point per minute guy. So I do think that he is interesting in that regard. Brandon Clark, I guess, is kind of similar just because he's 6,100 but like we've seen his minutes like be steady enough now where I don't think there's quite as much volatility as there is with Williams.
All right. And
Jaren
no,
Jackson at 7K too. I mean, I guess if he's going to avoid foul trouble in these games and play 30 to 32 minutes, we know how high that ceiling is too. But Robert Williams would be my first answer.
okay. Larry, we do need to mention the overlords. I forgot about that. The YouTube overlords. Yeah. Lurking overhead, trying to hold us down. And no, I'm not. Dude, how many times I have to tell people, they say this to you and me all the time, that we're either high or drunk whenever we go off. I mean, sometimes I can understand the perception that I'm giving off, but that's just,
I have no idea how
man.
anyone has ever thought I'm drunk on a show before.
Well, I mean, the one time that was our best show ever, hands down. Like you and me, that was clearly our best show ever. The burp while speaking, and then it was a great, and the best part was like you came in, but you still had fire analysis, but you were just loosened up having a good time. I need to do more shows with like 5 White Claw deep Adam Scherer. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's the last thing we need.
I don't know. I think it's pretty fun. No, this is just who I am. You can ask anybody who knows me. I get deep sometimes, man, and it's not always good. We turn dark, Jordan. Yeah. Wait till we hang out in July. You'll see. Start explaining to you some wild stuff. But besides the point. So yeah, it was a Hall of Fame show, Steven. No doubt about it. Yes. JoJo said Adam with his hair. Yeah. Adam did let his hair down. He really did. He let his hair down. We were having a blast. Anything else for Golden State you want to hit on from Gary Payton to Andrew Wiggins or anybody else that we haven't gotten to?
Yeah, Gary Payton started last game. I'm assuming he starts again today. I still think he's a decent value at 3,500, but his relative value certainly takes a hit with Marcus Smart being out, just because Derrick White's going to project better. Peyton Pritchard's going to project probably similarly, if not a little bit better. But if you're going to get around 22 to 24 minutes from Peyton, he is still a point per minute guy, give or take. And at 3,500, there's some value there. Similarly, if you're trying to get away, like if you're trying to build a lineup that need some sub 4K guys, but you're trying to get away from Boston, Otto Porter at least gives you a shot at a big game. It's not particularly likely. He doesn't project as well as those other guys, but he is only 3,700 and certainly has it, in his range of outcomes. So I think they're both worth mentioning. Klay Thompson, I guess everybody is aware that he's capable of getting really hot from three. The issue is just that he's not doing anything peripherally. So you really just need, if you're going to play him at 7K, you really need that Klay Thompson, 8 3-pointer game.
You do. And Klay Thompson is just not a guy that's going to give you a ton of peripherals, but once in a while he will rip off 30 plus real points. So let's talk about Memphis. Before we do, Jordan, I promised it. Let's do this. Awesemo Hall of Fame. So if you guys are unfamiliar with it, I know we got a lot of people that hang with us every day. I always see, you're the core of Awesemo. So you know how this works. But if you don't, Awesemo Hall of Fame, we try and do this every deeper dive. And we throw up all your big wins onto on the screen, induct you into the Hall of Fame, and give you a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. If you finish top, that's a $90 value. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, but you got to be rocking the Awesemo avatar. I mean, we got to get something out of it too, right? It's a little quid pro quo action here. Let's not lie to each other. Go to awesemo.com/avatar. Download the avatar, right? Rep the Awesemo avatar with us. Anywhere you want, DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, whatever it is. Tweet your wins at Awesemo, HOF. And when you win, well, that's all you got to do. You get up here, you get inducted, get a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. It's a win-win, and we get to show off these wins like we have with some of our favorite friends like John Harbison. Shout out to the entire Awesemo crew for the daily grind they go through so we can end up on top at the end of the day. Good stuff, John. Can't wait to put good use of that free month for taking down 2 tournaments. Beautiful. $200 and $250, first and first. I love it. And it can be $1 entry, a quarter, a nickel, a dime. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a field of 5,000 or more, we got you. Silk Tracks the Juggernaut. All right. Made the perfect lineup. Do I get a Hall of Fame shout out? I'm coming for that 100K next. Shout out to you guys, though. Keep teaching the game. 400. Good stuff, man. Yeah, that's a solid lineup for sure. And then you got 3 more. BK, Jab Step, 10K. Your men got me to the promised land. Congrats, BK. Good to see you up there. Melissa, Mavs lost, but I don't give a damn. Awesome night. Many thanks to the gang at Awesemo, the Live Before Lock and Deeper Dive crew. Awesome. First in the Showdown 20K and the 4K quarter jukebox. And lastly, Ryan Schindler, first big PGA hit. Thanks for all the help. Yeah, we got an awesome golf crew around here with Ben and Eric and Jason and Alex and all of those guys. 3K, second place in the 70K birdie. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You've been inducted, and welcome back. If you've been here before, rock that avatar. We got you. All right, let's make it happen. Final team, and then we'll turn it over to Greg and Eric. They're taking you all the way up till 7:30 here on the show. I don't really think we need to get too deep into Morant, right? Like, we kind of just gushed over him for 15 minutes while we talked about the Warriors.
Right. Yeah. He's great. He's doing everything. Insane assist percentage, rebounding at a high rate, still has a 30% usage rate. It's just a matter of, getting to him. And you do have Derrick White, you have Pritchard, both at point guard spots. You have Curry, you have Jrue. It's a pretty loaded position, but Morant still certainly looks good.
Trying to send something to Jordan. So when it comes to these other guys, this is where it gets weird. I mean, we have Bane projected in right now. Dylan Brooks is either 3 for 17 or he's going to give you 24 actual points. Really, there's zero way to predict what you're getting from Dylan Brooks. We do know that he'll shoot any opportunity he gets. He'll also just miss a lot of them as well. Brandon Clark played 30 minutes last game again. And Jaren Jackson's playing a lot of minutes, coming off that 33-point game, easily his best of the postseason. So always an interesting team, especially now that Jenkins is giving these guys real actual starter minutes.
Yeah, so far this postseason, about a 20% usage rate for Desmond Bane, 0.92 DraftKings points per minute. It's frustrating because he's such a better shooter than Dylan Brooks, but Dylan Brooks has a 24% usage rate in the postseason. Just, frustrating from a fantasy standpoint. Still a very high ceiling for Bane, just given that he's a very efficient shooter, but also can be kind of difficult to give him quite as many minutes as you would some other guys. Last game still played 32 and a half. You got 31 from Jackson, 30 from Brooks. So you'd like to feel a little bit better about those minutes. Brooks is still cheap enough where if his shot doesn't fall, you're going to be in trouble because it's not like he does a lot of rebounding. He doesn't do a lot in the way of assists, but you can't just, ignore him either because he's getting up so many shots that he's still underpriced. 24% usage rate in the postseason, as I mentioned. 5K on Fanduel, 5,500 on DraftKings, certainly underpriced. So I like him as well. Clark and Jackson, I think, are closer to correctly priced, but they do still give you very high ceilings in tournaments. So I think I get to them with less frequency than I do guys like Morant, Brooks, and Bane, but I'm not upset about getting there either. And then DeAnthony Melton, I think, is just interesting because in the first playoff series against Minnesota, we didn't see Melton playing much. We saw Tyson Jones getting more minutes. We saw Zaire Williams in the rotation. Last game, Zaire Williams didn't play. John Conchar played 8 minutes. Tyus Jones only played 12. So you're basically talking about like 4 to 6 minutes of Zaire Williams disappearing. You're talking about like 6 to 8 minutes of Tyus Jones disappearing, and basically all just getting thrown to DeAnthony Melton, who played 25 minutes. He doesn't need to play 25 minutes to be a good play at $3,900. If you even give him like 20 minutes, he ends up looking pretty solid. So I do think he's an interesting flyer in tournaments, and I do think also that the absence of Marcus Smart is going to drive down DeAnthony Melton's ownership because you're just going to get more going to Pritchard and Derrick White in addition to Gary Payton, assuming he's in the starting lineup.
Jordan, we had a super chat from our friend Sammy Telesco. Was that 2 $5 super chats just to make sure? It was 1. Okay, I'm saying you just sent it. Okay, you said sent twice. I thought you meant he sent it twice. Jordan, he said, I'm working on my chat etiquette. I love you guys. Now say this with conviction. Signed,
the Buffalo War Pigs.
There we go. Buffalo War Pigs. Signs every single one. Buffalo War Pigs. Gotta love it. Talk about conviction. And then we had, thanks, Sammy. Kiko Isaac Livingstone. That's a sick name. Poole or Thompson, Robert, Grant, or White. So
the first part's easy for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going Poole with the first one.
I see there's no comma there. I'm assuming he's just asking of the 3, but is he saying Robert Williams and just accidentally said Robert Grant?
I think he's saying Robert Williams, Grant Williams, or Derrick White.
Okay.
In which case,
I only
think
ask
it's
because the prices are a lot different.
Yeah, I'll say the prices are different. Factoring in the price, I think it's definitely White. Ignoring the price, it's still probably White.
Okay. So let's close it out.
We had one from Jeff Williams too.
Say it again.
We had one from Jeff Williams also.
Oh, go ahead.
He said Brown, Giannis, Robert Williams, or Tatum, Clark, Holiday. High dollar GPP on DK. Thanks for all you do. Welcome back, Adam. If I am in that tournament, I would say the Tatum, Clark, Holiday one. If I'm not in it, I would say Brown, Giannis, and Williams.
Okay. Anything else we want to hit on for did you hit on Melton yet? I was trying to read you did?
Yep.
Okay. Wanted to get all these super chats together. Make sure no one is unheard here. Is there anybody else that you missed before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I mean, Tillman played like 13 minutes. I'm not really interested in going there on this slate.
All right. Good stuff. Hey, you guys are fun as always. This is a blast, and trying to get some good information in there along the way. Nice combination of both, a healthy mixture. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this show as always. Jordan, anything you want to say before we go?
I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to have you start planning some stuff. Come in hot next time. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Lafayette_D. And 38 to 500 likes. Atone for those sins, as our super chatter said earlier. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you back here soon. Greg and Eric coming up next. Peace.
You're a funny guy. Funny looking.
Put him on camera more.
You excited to go? Are you cameoing in the new Doctor Strange movie? Or not? It's
Bet he
okay.
is.
I bet he is. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show, presented by Odd Chopper. I'm Eric Lindquist. We're talking 2 games. You guys know what's up. Smash the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Guys did a great job previously, but I would like to get those likes on up. We've got over 1.5K, 1.6K people hanging out here talking a 2-game playoff slate. It's been turned on its head in the last hour. That is for damn sure, but I've got just the guy who's going to help you wade through the madness. He's Greg Ehrenberg at Ehrenberg DFS on Twitter. Go follow him there. How you doing, my dude?
I would be doing better if Marcus Smart was playing. I definitely feel better just in general about my Celtics futures. Unfortunately, this means I ended up having to bet the Bucks today. So I've got all kinds of conflicting feelings here. So ideally for me, the Celtics win this game, but then win by less than 5 points. And I'd feel really good about this particular slate. But yeah, I was not expecting Marcus Smart to get ruled out. I thought the injury was just kind of fugazi. It was just one of those things he's listed as questionable. I feel the same way about Desmond Bane's injury, but apparently not.
He could have had 48 different injuries in game 1. Like I saw him with his knee, he's banging his head, he's flying around. He's like a carp who plays basketball. He's just flopping around on the floor, does a bunch of crazy stuff. I think the guy's fantastic. Oklahoma State legend, shout out. But I'm pretty sure for the most part, he's just, I mean, if there's anybody who would not fake an injury, I know it's ironic because he flops all the time, but he is definitely pretty tough, I would say. Confirmed, not Jimmy Butler.
No, I mean, it's definitely a real injury. I just didn't think it was an injury beforehand. Like earlier in the day when you saw him listed as questionable, like, if you had to handicap the odds of on him playing or sitting, I would have said like 99% Marcus Smart is playing. I was totally caught off guard when he wasn't active.
We got Gregory Ehrenberg. Oh, he got that fresh cut. He got that good over there. What's up, baby? What's up, baby? How you doing? Yeah.
Well, I'm good. So I'm just getting ready for my new MLB betting, which I mean, I've been doing the MLB betting picks, but we're upgrading it.
But now it's the MLB betting picks.
I don't want to spoil anything, but it's going to be Greg's best dong picks. And we'll see, or Greg's hot dong picks. My bad, Greg's hot dong picks. So we had to do a photo shoot today, but that's what it's gonna be. That's what
welcome. Way to debut every Jordan Klein. Go, please tell me you have producer cam set up today. Do you not? Look at Jordan Klein coming in hot. Greg's hot dong picks.
What's wrong with me just talking about home runs? They're going to be the hottest dong
Greg's
picks.
Dong picks. Yeah, they're the hottest dong picks. I'm here for it. I'm very here for it. But it was just the way that Jordan Klein reacted that I just almost spit out everything in my butt. I mean, that was just hilarious. Almost just.
Wait, what?
Just, straight out Duke. I was going to take a sip of my water and then I wasn't because I would have been all over the screen. But here we go. The biggest dongs. Yes, we're ready to rock with it. Greg checking out
the hottest,
dongs.
not the biggest. You're
the
totally
hottest, the biggest, the longest, the farthest.
I'm a little confused how you take. We're just
Big,
talking about home runs. Eric.
Hard, long dongs is what we're going for.
No. We're talking about home runs, dingers, like the kid, the chubby kid who played.
I hit dangers.
Yeah, I forget what that kid's name was.
I don't know, but it was one of the greatest things ever. It was one of the greatest videos I've ever seen in my entire life. Shout out to him wherever he is. He's hitting dingers.
Before we go further, can you explain what you said before?
What do you mean?
You said you shot something out of your butt, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not what I said. Let's get to it. We got 2 games NBA slate to break down. We have 52 minutes here until lock. The people need all the information. Let's just start here. We go position by position generally on this show. The guys cover game by game beforehand. You know the drill by now, especially if you're brand new here. Well, if you're brand new here, you probably don't, because that would be weird. Hit the subscribe button in that event. But we have no Marcus Smart here. Derrick White is crazy popular as the confirmed starter here for the Boston Celtics. If Peyton Pritchard behind him here. I mean, is this possible that this is an all-in play here at his current price?
Yes, it's a 2-game slate. There isn't that much value to be had. I think Derrick White's going to start and play a whole bunch of minutes, and I think the Celtics are going to play a really tight rotation. One thing I was actually kind of trying to figure out before we started is I didn't even know if I want to project the Celtics for an 8 or a 7-man rotation, because I think it's possible Daniel Theis gets cut out entirely. I didn't end up projecting it that way. I gave him a handful of minutes, but I think we're going to see, I texted this to you before also when the news first out. I think Tatum and Brown both play somewhere in the neighborhood of 44 minutes. Yep. And then I think that Horford and Robert Williams play a whole bunch. Derrick White's going to play a ton. Pritchard will play the backup guard minutes. Grant Williams play the backup forward minutes. And I don't think anybody else sees significant playing time. Like I said, maybe a few minutes for Daniel Theis, but wouldn't even be surprised if he's a 0.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I play Prize Picks out here in good old California, CA. What's up? But I found it impossible not to like the overs for Jaylen Brown. As soon as that news dropped, he was somebody I had to react to. Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams were available. I thought that they're definitely guys who are going to be involved as well. But I'm with you. I think the two primary guys outside of obviously Derrick White, you got to look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in a completely different light. And Jason Tatum's already pretty expensive. Jaylen Brown's 7,700 on the DraftKings slate. Very cheap over on Fanduel at 7,800 as well. I find him to be very intriguing for this slate as well. I see more opportunity coming his way, still over a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy on both sites under all circumstances this season. Is he a guy that you're landing on it in a majority of your lineups like I am as well?
So, I mean, I hate to put it out this way, but everybody who's on the Celtics that I think is going to be an important part of the rotation, I'm playing a ton of.
Yep.
I think that everybody from Boston are the best plays on the slate by like a wide, like the best play is Derrick White. The second best play is Peyton Pritchard. The third best is Jaylen Brown. The fourth best is Jason Tatum. The fifth best is Time Lord. Sixth best. Like, I just think all of the Celtics guys are the players that we want to build around, because there's a couple of things here. Not only is Marcus Smart out, and this is one of the few few situations where there's value in the playoffs because of an injury, but that hasn't actually been the case lately. But at least for this slate, this is the main value spot. I'm assuming Desmond Bane plays, and I like everybody on Boston a lot, and I think that all of the ownership here is warranted and then some.
All right. Aiden Jones, $2 super chat. Getting the super chat game started off on the right foot. Peyton and Curry or Melton and Holiday DK tournament. I love when people ask questions when we're on that position. We're talking guards. Would you prefer a lineup of Peyton and Curry or Melton and Holiday for a DK GPP?
Yeah, so the way last game went, I want to ask you this because I have my answer in mind already. But do you think Gary Payton starts today, or do you think Jordan Poole starts?
I think Gary Payton starts. I think you just keep the train rolling. I think Steph and Klay, Klay didn't even play good. He was in foul trouble the entire time.
If they're keeping the train rolling, though, Poole started the second half ahead of Payton.
Right, but I'm saying that Gary Payton went out and I mean, he's just there to be a nuisance for like 6 minutes and then come out and, you know, that's like basically what his purpose is. And then, I mean, Klay got into foul trouble where that allowed Gary Payton to actually, I think, see an increased workload compared to what he would have had. I mean, we saw 23 minutes. I don't think he plays over 20 if Klay doesn't get in severe foul trouble throughout that entire game. I mean, Jordan Poole coming off the bench, or like when they had Steph Curry coming off the bench in the first round, that's such a dynamic guy to just add in that right from the jump. If Golden State goes down 5, goes down 7, goes down 10, even in the early going of that game, you bring Jordan Poole off the bench 6 minutes, 8 minutes in, it's kind of a problem. If you start all three, you know, you just start off with the quote unquote death lineup to get going right for the jump there. I don't know if that's something where you're really bringing anything off the bench. Feels like Steve Kerr has something to him where he just wants to have that one playmaker, that one other shooter come off the bench and show up and then close the game as such. I think Gary Payton probably still starts, but I don't have like a strong lean.
All right. I have it projected as if Poole is going to start.
Okay.
That aside, not that aside, but this is one of the main reasons my answer here is Melton and Jrue Holiday. And the other thing too is I'm going to be so heavy on Boston that it just makes sense too that I'm also going to want Giannis a lot and I'm going to want Jrue a lot, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be like, hey, I have these lineups with all these Boston players, and then it's like Memphis and Golden State on the other side.
That's fair. I mean, for me, does it even people talking about the different foul trouble for different guys and people wouldn't have had this or that. Gary Payton, when he had personal fouls, they didn't take him off the floor. Like that's the huge difference. Like Klay Thompson, they were taking him off the floor with 3, and, you know, 3 is a little bit different than the 2 and pulling him off the floor. And that's kind of the situation. I mean, Gary Payton's just not an important guy that they need to be worried about in that capacity. That's why I think he can go out and just try to be a menace do what he does, create turnovers, try to create some kind of disruption on the defensive end of the floor. You bring Poole off the bench, and then it's just offense. But I really don't think I have like a strong lean. Gary Payton's cheap enough where I'm still going to take shots on him, but I'm with you. Fine. I think I prefer the other side. Yeah, it's whatever. Let's keep talking expensive guys. We talked about Steph Curry a second ago there. In the landscape of Ja Morant, Steph Curry, Jrue Holiday, those are your three main guys to pay up for at point guard, specifically on DraftKings. Can you rank those 1, 2, 3 for me?
All right. So it was
Ja Morant, Steph Curry, and Jrue Holiday. 1, 2, 3. 10-1 on DK, 9,100 on DK, 8,300 on DK.
All right. So 1 for me is Holiday. And this is not from a projection standpoint. It's really based on just correlation with all the Celtics guys I have.
I like
and then it's Morant 2, Steph Curry 3. If I'm just playing it in terms of what is optimal projection wise, then it would actually be Morant 1, Curry 2, Holiday 3. But the way my lineups are shaking out, once again, I have to prioritize Bucks players or else my lineups just don't make sense.
Yep. I'm prioritizing Giannis. There's that for sure. And I like the Jrue Holiday call. Once again, I mean, Giannis, 48.5. We cashed that just barely. The over on points, rebounds, assists the other night. That was great. Thanks, Odd Shopper, 48.5. Good times were had by all, but mainly 64 fantasy points. Useful, Miladi. Let's move down the board a little bit further. Let's just talk about Peyton Pritchard and some of the uncertainty that exists for some of these backup guys on the Celtics. How many minutes do you project Pritchard for? And if you're playing as much Derrick White, again, I think you and I are both on board where you just play 100% of him and then you live with the result of it. And that's what I'm going to do. You can do what you want with that analysis. But how much Pritchard are you having in lineups as well?
Yeah, so Derrick White is a far better play to me than Peyton Pritchard. And Pritchard, I think Pritchard is going to play the backup minutes. And something else that we do have as a little bit of a guideline, keep in mind, this is a playoff game, so we're going to see more of a condensed rotation from Boston. But there was a game not all that long ago where Marcus Smart was out, and we kind of got an idea of what the point guard rotation was going to look like. And I'll pull that game up right now. But we saw the only 2 point guards that got minutes were Peyton Pritchard and Derrick White in that game. It was, here we go, March 21st against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Celtics ended up winning that game 132-123. We got 34.5 minutes out of Derrick White, 25.5 minutes out of Peyton Pritchard. Nick Stauskas was a DNP. Aaron Nesmith was a DNP. So I think we're going to see something similar. Maybe the minutes skewed a little bit heavier towards Derrick White and a little lesser on Peyton Pritchard, just because Derrick White's better in this game matters a whole bunch. So the reason that I still like Pritchard, and Pritchard's more of a DK specific play than Fanduel. For Fanduel at 3,700, he's viable, but we could get Derrick White for 3,900, at least on DraftKings. If you need to roster somebody who's close to the flatman, there's just nobody close to being as good of a play as Peyton Pritchard is. So once again, Derrick White's the better option, but if you need somebody who's just close to the flatman, Pritchard's the best option on the slate.
Yeah, I have 54% of him right now in lineups on DK. I'm playing my normal 80 that I've been firing over there per night. And I feel as though that kind of sets up to be about the right number for me, mainly because 3,100, if he ends up, if anything happens to White, I still think White has the opportunity, as long as it's not injury based, he could still easily cover 3,800 and be optimal and have no problem. So like, once again, that lock isn't something I'm concerned of. The only thing I'm concerned of with Pritchard is if White is playing really, really well, what does that mean in terms of what that lineup looks like? Pritchard goes out and he's a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, but he's shared the floor with Smart in the past. There's just a number of ways where Pritchard fails, even at 3,100. Obviously, if you project him for over 20 minutes, like we both do, 24 minutes, like in that ballpark, he's going to be very serviceable at 3,100. And I just think it takes up a roster spot in some of them. I have other Boston players I do want to roster as well. I have some guys that I've kind of mixed in the later game, and we'll talk about the forward spot specifically further down the board. Some interesting plays. Once again, looking at you, Kyle Anderson. But let's go. Anything else regarding the Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard situation? It's pretty important.
So another thing too is that Derrick White is kind of like a poor man's Marcus Smart in terms of Derrick White is not a very good offensive player. Like Marcus Smart's a better offensive player. Derrick White is very, very good defensively, though. Once again, not as good as Marcus Smart, but he's capable of filling the role, whereas Peyton Pritchard is a really poor defensive player. And I think that the matchup for the Celtics with Derrick White against Jrue Holiday is just much more favorable than going out and trying to force Peyton Pritchard to play minutes against him. So that's another reason why, if anybody's looking and they're like, well, I don't know how to project the minutes here. First, look at the minutes the last time Marcus Smart was out, where it was 34.5 for Derrick White, 24.5 for Peyton Pritchard. And then I think this is a matchup where it suits the Celtics better to get the extended run to Derrick White as opposed to Pritchard.
Let's talk about the X factors. I'm going to call them the X factors for this slate, because I think they're guys that naturally this has become pretty stars and scrubsy, but we're going to find the mid-range on a 2-game slate quite a bit still. And you got to kind of discern between Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks. Let's talk about those 4 guys specifically. How do you look at Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole together right around the exact same tag, 7K and 6,900 respectively on DraftKings? FanDuel, there's a little bit of different positionality. I think Klay Thompson fitting into lineups pretty easily at 6,600 for me there, as opposed to 7,200 for Poole. But from the Golden State side, which of those 2 do you prefer on DraftKings at nearly identical tags?
It has to be Klay Thompson for me. And I understand last game, Jordan Poole was the guy for this team. But it is such recency bias, in my opinion, that they would have the same ownership and the same price tag talking about DK. Because Jordan Poole, once again, he's had a really, really strong season, Jordan Poole. And I don't think anybody would have expected him to play quite this well. But if you look at his box scores as of late, this was such an outlier game he had last time out. He made 50% of his shots from 3. He made well over 50% of his shots from the field. He also had 8 rebounds. He had 9 assists. He was ridiculously good that game. And Klay Thompson got in foul trouble. And we just have to ask ourselves, going forward, are the Warriors going to be playing Jordan Poole more minutes than Klay Thompson? And the answer is no. So I think the answer here is we go to Klay. I expect him to play more minutes than Jordan Poole. It doesn't mean Poole is unplayable, but just in the essence of the question, which is which do I prefer? It's Klay.
Yep. Then that's the thing, is we're worried about DFS purposes. Jordan Poole had the great game. We're seeing close to the same ownership, which is surprising to me, 23%, 26% on DK. Give me the same answer. I'm going to be going Klay just about every single time. Now the next 2 that I talked about, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks. You've been a big Dillon Brooks stan. Obviously, we're waiting on Desmond Bane news that could really throw this entire slate out of whack. But which one of those 2 do you prefer?
Well, Dillon Brooks is maybe my least favorite player in the NBA, so I don't know where I became a stan of him from. But the thing that's crazy is
I never did. I say that?
I thought that was exactly what you just said. Dillon Brooks
God.
stan.
Oh, maybe I was being sarcastic in my mind, or my
I don't know. You said a lot of questions. You've called me a Dillon Brooks stan. You spit something out of your asshole before. I don't know what was up with that.
No, Dillon Brooks sucks. You hate him. And I mean, he's great defensively, quack, but whatever.
So the thing that's weird about Dillon Brooks is I understand he's a good player. You look at his numbers and he's produced really well over the course of the season. He's really good at advanced metrics. And even his efficiency numbers this year, they weren't good, but it wasn't quite as terrible as it seems. For whatever reason, every time I watch Dillon Brooks, he's the worst game he's ever played, but it happens consistently. And his games are very predicated, apparently, on whether I am watching or not, which is not great for him now that it's the playoffs, but there's no actual scientific correlation that Dillon Brooks is nervous or bothered when I'm watching him or anything like that. But what odds would you give on Desmond Bane actually sitting today?
10%.
So at the very least, like, I want to have lineups with Dillon Brooks, particularly on FanDuel. Like, he's way, way too cheap on FanDuel. And then even on DraftKings, I think he's a serviceable mid-range play, even though I do prefer Klay Thompson. I prefer, I think Brooks versus Jordan Poole points per dollar is a little bit closer, but I prefer Klay to Brooks. But if we're just looking for somebody in that mid 5K range, one thing also, there's nobody else priced around him at the shooting guard spot on DK. So Brooks is 5,500. The next cheapest guy is Grayson Allen at 47. Then you got Bane at 67. And then you go look at the small forward spot. You've got Wiggins close to him at 57. But if you're looking for a guard in that range, there's just no other option. So I think you kind of get forced to play him in a bunch of lineups. He's kind of unavoidable. Yeah,
it's brutal, but you kind of have to a little bit. I mean, Desmond Bane, if he ends up playing, is going to be pretty low owned. 17.3% we're currently projecting him for. You could probably turn some Jordan Poole into Desmond Bane. So if you just wanted to front load some of that or Klay Thompson obviously shares the shooting guard, small forward position. So you could just be in your shooting guard spot and go from there. Or, you're probably going to have that shooting guard position used up. It's just going to be guard utility more than likely on DK with all the Boston value. But Desmond Bane is a guy that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on because I just think he's going underutilized as it stands right now. No doubt about it. You look up at the boom bust tool, though, and there's nowhere to be found. It seems like almost all those guys are going a little bit overload, but the guy who's at the very top of the NBA boom bust tool, and yes, somebody jumped the gun there for me. I order this stuff. I know what I'm asking, Greg. Plus, it's a 2-game slate. It's pretty easy to know how I want to navigate the board. DeAnthony Melton played 25 minutes and absolutely smashed, was a must-have. We have to compare him to the likes of Peyton Pritchard and the likes of Derrick White on this slate, which, again, he was 1% last slate. And now people saw that rotation. They expect the same thing, possibly from Memphis. 1, do you think DeAnthony Melton plays 20-plus minutes tonight? And 2, how do you rank him amongst every other piece of value on this slate?
Amongst every single piece of value.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, just where does he fit in the landscape of your lineups? It's just, I can't find him. I can't land on him today.
So I certainly like Derrick White a whole bunch more than him, even though they're, at the same price. I think Melton makes sense as a contrarian option. I'd still prefer Peyton Pritchard to DeAnthony Melton. But to answer your question before, I do think he plays over 20 minutes today. And I think he's a good enough contrarian play because this is a much better matchup for Melton than the series was last time out against Minnesota, where we saw the Grizzlies more geared towards playing bigger lineups. They're not doing that as much in this series. And one thing that kind of was upsetting to me after the fact is I played for game 1, I played showdown contest for the Grizzlies Warriors, and I was fairly high on DeAnthony Melton in my first build. And then you know what happened? Gary Payton got named the starter. And then it was like, what do I really need DeAnthony Melton for? He's a little bit risky. Just go with the safe thing in Melton and in Payton over Melton. And then obviously in hindsight, it was like, whoops, that was a mistake. But I think the minutes are here to stay. I just prefer White and I prefer Pritchard to Melton, but I think Melton's still worth being overweight to the field on.
Do you like Melton more than you like Gary Payton II?
Yes.
Do you like Melton more than you like Pat Connaughton?
Yes.
Do you like Melton more than you like Wesley Matthews?
Ooh, this is starting to feel like I'm at the eye doctor. Number 1 or number 2?
Well,
number 1 or number 2?
Answer my fucking questions and life will be okay. How about that?
Better or worse? Better, the same, better, worse. I like Melton more than of all the guards priced under 4K. I like Melton more than all of them except for Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard.
There we go. That's what I was getting at. All right. So I won't X him out. There's that. I will X out Grayson Allen, part 2, the sequel. The original was great, but I think the sequel could be even better. Do you have any Grayson Allen?
So Grayson Allen, not really. I do not like Grayson Allen for this slate. Number 1, I think he's fairly expensive on both DraftKings and Fanduel relative to expectations for him. And he came off the bench and played really well last game. But at the same time, too, he had 3 steals. That's not happening again. He made 50% of his threes. That's probably not happening again. And that resulted in him scoring 22 fantasy points. That's still not that great of an outcome for Grayson Allen. This is really similar to when we talked about Chris Paul last night. And I had said that, like, hey, look, Chris Paul he had made 100% of his shots the game before. And you just start to say, like, if he just made a couple less of those shots, he would not have been a good play on DraftKings or FanDuel. And the same kind of goes for Grayson Allen here at this price. He was serviceable relative to his salary, but if he goes, 40% from the field or something instead of 50% from 3, then all of a sudden it's, a sub 20 fantasy point game. So I'm not really interested in Grayson Allen here.
Mill 15. I was going to move on and we were going to be done with guard here in a second, but he just brought up this. All due respect, Greg. You have a tendency to overvalue starter tags when that provides no indication of the amount of playing time that player will finish with.
So if this is in reference to me preferring Melton to Gary Payton, Melton is coming off the bench and Gary Payton is starting potentially.
Yep. Potentially. Yeah. Again, it was just a ridiculous point. I was going to defend you, but you did it yourself. You don't need me.
Yeah. So though. The other thing too is I just said Melton's my 3rd. The other thing too is I like Peyton Pritchard. He's coming off the bench.
He is coming off the bench. Confirmed. That is a thing that is happening. Yeah. Another thing that is confirmed happening. Are we done with guard, by the way?
Let's see. Other guards.
No stone left unturned. Any Javon Carter, any ridiculousness there?
No, I don't think there's any need for Javon Carter. I'm looking over at FanDuel.
No Jones either.
So as far as Desmond Bane goes, just because he's listed as questionable, how much do you think that might suppress his ownership? Because there's a part of me that just wants to give him like a thumbs up in Fantasy Cruncher, just under the assumption that people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not playing this dude with a questionable tag.
Talked about it already. I want a lot of D'Anthony Melton. He's going to go under.
No. Desmond Bane.
Or that's what I meant. Desmond Bane. Why am I saying the names of the people that I'm not meeting? Desmond Bane. I already talked about it. You can turn Jordan Poole 6,900 into Bane. I would prefer that. You $200 you go down to on DK. Klay Thompson, you had $300 on the table. I will rework my lineups, but I put a hard cap, double click the thumbs up on Desmond Bane. I'm going to get 42% of him as it stands right now.
Yeah, I think it's weird too. There's such a big ownership gap on him versus FanDuel and DraftKings, so I was kind of thinking more in a FanDuel sense because he's projected for 34% ownership on FanDuel, and I tend to think he's not going to be close to that number.
Yeah, and on DK, we only have an optimal percentage of 15.7% for him, 17.3% ownership. So as it stands right now, he's technically still over-owned at that reduced number, but there are only so many times you can get a starters minutes, 2-game slate where they're going to go under-owned relative to what they would be. He'd be around 35%. And there's enough other guys that I'm playing that have some negative leverage that I'm not going crazy with it. Plus, one of my favorite value plays exists at the forward position on the very bottom end there. I'm going to be playing a lot of him. He's standing out in the boom bust tool. So I think I'll be covered in that regard. But anything else from guard? I'll ask one more time.
I think we could just kind of sum it up here and give the players we have the most exposure to at point guard. And it's just going to be, pretty clear for me on DK, Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard, my two most rostered point guards. Shooting guard also going to be Derrick White, but then Jaylen Brown also in the mix. Over on FanDuel, Derrick White, and then it's close between Jrue Holiday and John Morant. And then it's shooting guard, Jaylen Brown. Dylan Brooks is so cheap on FanDuel that I find him to be pretty unavoidable at 5K.
All right. Jordan Klein, can you hit me up with those 2 super chats? My browser just closed on my iPad.
I can do it.
Oh, yeah. Send it to me, please. That would be great. I
could just read it.
Oh, okay. Well, just give me a second because I'm going to do this quick. $7, 7 days, Awesemo plus Platinum. How can you do such a thing? Promo code Luca. Promo code Luca gets you 7 full days of Awesemo plus Platinum. That is 77% off for just $7. Yeah, look at that. Lucky sevens across the board. Lucky Luca, if you will, but just put in Luca, Luka. This will give you access to everything we have for NBA. That is ownership projections, player projections, the boom bust tool, which I'm using constantly, even these days. Yes, even on 2-game slates, so much leverage, so many opportunities to see clearly on a screen how Awesemo's projections are really being utilized for tournaments. It is one of the best tools in the entire industry. Plus, we have so many other sports to take advantage of. Have you seen F1? Have you checked out USFL? If you have, we have projections. We have opportunities for you to capitalize on the knowledge with the guys here at Awesemo in order to put it directly to use in DFS contests there. Tennis even, soccer. I'm telling you, every DFS sport, if there are contests for it, we have content for it. Lofty says it all the time, but that's because it's true. Just $7 for 7 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum with promo code Luca. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus today. All right. Did you send me those super chats, or you can just read off the $4.99 one that I missed?
Yeah. So we have a super chat from Jeff Williams. With Draymond hopefully playing the whole game, how does that affect players like Poole and Porter? Poole or Draymond, high dollar GPP on DK. So first of all, yes, I do assume that Draymond will not get a flagrant 2 and get ejected in the middle of this game. As for how it affects Jordan Poole, I don't think it affects Poole that much. Otto Porter, it certainly does. There's just less minutes available for Porter, assuming that Draymond plays a full allotment of minutes today. I do prefer Draymond Green to Jordan Poole.
I do too. I prefer Is this true? I'm thinking about it. I obviously hate Looney. I'm trying to think of anybody in the rotation meaningfully because Kuminga's not really going to play. Otto Porter, I prefer. I prefer Steph. I prefer Klay. I prefer pretty much everybody to Jordan Poole today.
Ooh, even all right.
Anybody in a meaningful more than 20 minutes of rotation, I've got them in more lineups than Jordan Poole.
Looney?
I said Looney's no. Looney's going to play like 22, 24 minutes, and I'm not going to play him.
Okay. That qualifies as more than 20, though.
That's true. Okay. Well, I was just like talking it out through in my head. Out of the starting group, if Poole starts, he will be my least favorite starter. If he's coming off the bench, he becomes even more suppressed. I would like him less than every Golden State starter, including the addition of Otto Porter coming off the bench. I like Otto Porter more. So,
all right, fair enough. It's Draymond for me over Poole as well. So we're on the same page there. Super chat from Darren Unger. He was asking for Fanduel, Jrue Holiday, and Robert Williams. So it's 3v3.
Okay, so Holiday, Williams, Bane. So that's the Robert variety. And then Klay, Pritchard, Tatum.
I'm going to say Holiday, Williams, and Bane.
I am too, but we'll get to Robert Williams. I've got some questions for you. I got some questions. So let's keep it on rolling here then. Starting at forward, we've got two spend-ups. Giannis, Jason Tatum. Those guys are pretty clear-cut guys that I want to get to a lot. I don't think there's any way around it. How much are you getting to of those two individually?
Yeah, so each of them are in about half of my lineups, a slight lean towards Giannis. So one thing that does restrict Tatum a little bit for me, and this is a very minor gripe, is there are so many guys from Boston to get to. And unless I'm making DK lineups with like 7 or like with like 6 Celtics, then it's hard to make Tatum that high of a priority relative to other Boston players. I think Jaylen Brown is a better value option. I think Derrick White is a better points per dollar play. I think Peyton Pritchard's a better points per dollar play. And then there's the next tier of guys, which is Tatum, Robert Williams, and Al Horford. So since I really am prioritizing White, Pritchard, and Jaylen Brown, I don't think it makes sense to have just a ton of lineups that have like all 4 of them and then one of the big men also.
Kiko, Isaac Livingstone. That is all caps, lovely. $4.99. Thank you so much for the super chat. Good stuff. Bane and Draymond or Ja and Kuminga. I want nothing to do with Kuminga today.
Yeah, it's Bane and Draymond pretty clearly. So the minutes Kuminga played last game were very much a result of Draymond getting kicked out of the game with the flagrant 2. And now that we have Draymond playing, I mean, we're looking at Kuminga either being out of the rotation or playing like 12 minutes.
Do you know how many minutes Kuminga played in that first series?
In the
Denver series.
Off the top of my head.
Total.
There was a couple games that were blowouts, so we probably got blowout run. Meaningful minutes, it was almost none.
Yeah, pretty much his meaningful minutes about 0. He played 25 total minutes in the total games that they played Denver. In 5 games. It's not good. It's not a good number. We don't want Jonathan Kuminga in our lives. That's basically what it comes down to.
Thank you so much. Zero.
Yeah. Bane and Draymond, for sure. You will be all right in that scenario. Best of luck to you. I'll take the blame if Kuminga plays even 15 minutes. There's no way. There's just no way for me. It would take a lot of injuries and problems and more ejection. Yay, Draymond, have fun. Let's move down the board here at forward. I'm not really landing on a lot of Bobby Portis, but I am landing on one guy in Jaren Jackson Jr. at 6,100. I think you were beating the drum for him. He's up to 25% now on DraftKings.com. You know what you're getting into. There's a number of times he's going to run into foul trouble. There's a number of times, though, where he doesn't, and you're going to get what you got in the last 2 games. That is 45.5 and 52 fantasy points on DraftKings.com. You've been talking about him quite a bit. Out of the 6K range, is he your favorite guy to be getting to on DraftKings?
Draymond Green is, but
okay.
But I still like Jaren Jackson quite a bit, and I like him more than Brandon Clark.
I do too.
It's really funny to me how the narrative has kind of, or at least how people are building their lineups, how it's changed. Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably going to make an all-defensive team this year. He got first place votes to win Defensive Player of the Year, and now he got into some foul trouble in the playoffs. I legitimately think there's a lot of people who think Brandon Clark is better than Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe that changed after the last game where Jaren Jackson just went absolutely completely bonkers. He's not gonna do that from 3 again. He made 6 of 8 from 3. He was making all of his deep shots, and they were contested really deep threes. But it's crazy to me that he's about the same price as Brandon Clark, and Clark is projected for more ownership. I don't understand that.
I'm with you. I think there's no doubt about it that I just want to get to more Jaren Jackson Jr. The ceiling's higher. 6K, Brandon Clark. It's a 2-game slate. I'm not going to be writing him off. 31.7% owned, though. I just prefer Jaren Jackson, getting to about 35% of him. Brandon Clark, I'm getting to around 24%. Slight lean, Jaren Jackson Jr. Just the upside's there. I might make it more pronounced as we're going along here. But Al Horford exists, 5,800. That just is another Boston Celtic that we're going to see the minutes start coming down maybe a little bit with Robert Williams getting inserted into the rotation here and kind of in the last couple starting to tick away from it. But we've seen Al Horford play a lot of minutes at the 5 still when Robert Williams isn't on the floor. Got up to 36 minutes in game 1. What are your prospects for Al Horford on this slate?
Yeah. So as for Al Horford, one thing that makes it really tough is it's really hard to know how healthy Robert Williams is. And it's twofold. Last game was the first time he started since suffering he had the knee injury, he had surgery. He came back against the Nets. He played 16 minutes in the first game. He played 14 minutes the next game. Then last game he plays 22 minutes, but some stuff happened. Number one, the game was not competitive, so the Celtics didn't have their starters out at the end. He briefly left the game with a different injury. So that was also something that was an issue for him. That, and also Boston was down by so much in the game, they needed to get more perimeter shooting on the court. Now, with all of that said, I love getting to Robert Williams at 4,900, and he has to be a higher priority play for me than Al Horford, because for almost the entire season, Robert Williams is a better fantasy producer than Al Horford, and now there is a $900 price difference between the two of them, with Al Horford being more expensive, which was never the case in the regular season. Robert Williams was always more expensive, and Horford's more popular.
It's so fascinating to me after a game 1. People don't think that teams are going to make adjustments, that they're just going to do what they did last time out. It's the same reason I'm not going to play Melton, and we'll get to that with Kyle Anderson. But I'm looking at Al Horford here, 5,800. I'm going to be a little bit lower. He's 42% owned right now. That's a pretty ridiculous number. Milwaukee basically let him sit around the perimeter and shoot. 9 3-point attempts was an outrageous number from Al Horford in that first game. They're basically just giving him that shot. He went 4 for 9 from 3. I'm guessing they just don't allow him to just free willy-nilly shoot that shot this time around. And if he doesn't, they will allow him to, you think?
That's how they defended threes all year. So
yeah, I mean, over the course of the last couple of years, Milwaukee's always been weak defending the three as a whole, but it's partially just because they'll let these guys that are sub 35% shooters just chuck.
Yeah, so they'll let Al Horford they'll let guys like Al Horford and Marcus Smart take as many good 3-point looks as they want. And in turn, they just won't give them to guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's just generally how they play defense.
Yeah, Al Horford, 35.3% on the season. That's what I'm saying. It's just not as good as what looks for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That is for sure. I'm with you. But I'm with you. I think also Robert Williams, though, 4,900. Man, I'm excited to talk about him at center. But first, let's round out forward. I'm looking down here at the absolute seller, and on the boom bust tool, I've referred to it a couple of times, and this is why I have so many issues trying to get to like a D'Anthony Melton when you have such good guard value that exists on this slate. Is I think if I'm going to go to the forward and go to the bottom, I'm just going to roster a guy like Kyle Anderson. And when Draymond Green got removed from that game, I think it removed a need to give extra minutes to Kyle Anderson. And I think as a result, Melton ended up fitting it a little bit easier into rotations because Gary Payton saw more minutes. You saw guys like Otto Porter get more minutes. They went smaller in some spots. I just think Kyle Anderson, in the landscape of a game where Draymond Green is playing the 5 and they play small ball and it's Jaren Jackson Jr. or Clark or something, Kyle Anderson is the guy that might be out there a lot of the time on a guy like Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. Defensively has more utility. Plus, if you play a lot of Kyle Anderson right away and you get that Desmond Bane ruled out situation, you're sitting on the nuts. Like Kyle Anderson is going to play a ton of minutes in that result. I'm going to play a lot of him because I think there's still utility at 3,700 to playing him. He's my really, really big stand of value that I have on this slate because I think there's a number of ways that it works out. I can turn it into Otto Porter if I need to, identical tags, but do you feel the same way I do about Kyle Anderson?
No, I don't think he plays very many minutes today. I'm sorry, Eric, but
that's fine.
So there's a couple things. Number one, he played 18 minutes last game and also really sucked in those minutes. So he might have played himself out of playing bigger minutes today. Yeah. And the other thing too is Memphis really going to run a rotation this deep in the playoffs, like all throughout this series? Because I think the easiest way for Memphis to adjust from game 2 to game 1 is just play a tighter rotation. Who plays a 10-man rotation in the playoffs where they were giving, they gave Tyus Jones minutes, they gave Conchar minutes, Tillman, he starts. I assume that still remains the case. Kyle Anderson. I think there's a good chance that a couple of these guys get cut out of the rotation, and Anderson is potentially one of them. And I just think the way that you adjust in the series is you play Jaren Jackson pending foul trouble. If he fouls out immediately, there's nothing you can do about that. But look back in the game in hindsight, how ridiculous is that he only played 31 minutes given how well he was playing? Dylan Brooks sucked. He also got in foul trouble. But there's no reason for Bane to play 32 minutes. There's no reason for Jaren Jackson Jr. to play 31. Just play your best players more minutes in playoff scenarios.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson, though, he had decent enough runs there in the Minnesota series, was playing mid-teens minutes, high-teens minutes there in some spots. Part of it is just also sitting on the news of having the opportunity to roster Kyle Anderson, who, if Desmond Bane comes out, do you think Kyle Anderson is the prime guy to possibly start in his spot?
I think they usually went to Zaire Williams in this situation in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, it could be it's just one of those interesting things to be paying attention to. He's questionable, Zaire Williams, that is. So yeah, still waiting on that as well. A lot of little small knicky-knack things that matter a lot for Showdown, maybe a little bit less so for the full slate here. But wanted to talk through that one. I can always turn him into Otto Porter if I need to there. I think Otto Porter, he's okay. You know what you're getting with him, 20 minutes. He's going to play a lot fewer minutes than 23, I would think, with Draymond Green there. Maybe 18, 20 minutes is kind of the ballpark you're looking at there. But I don't really want to land on Grant Williams. Is Grant Williams somebody that you're playing at all?
Not really. Let me see. I have very minimal exposure to him. Once again, there's so many Celtics guys to get to. And it's the same reason why I don't have like 80% of Jason Tatum, is because I can't have my lineups only be Celtics guys. And if I was to make a list of players I wanted to play from Boston, Grant Williams would be 7th on that list.
Okay. And that's what it comes down to, is he's going to play minutes, not a good fantasy point per minute guy. Has shown some upside here in the playoffs, but I'm with you where I just think it's hard to want to roster 6 Celtics in a lineup. Yeah. Although I think there's a chance 5 is okay on DK. Are you getting to any 5 Celtic lineups on DraftKings.com?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm too.
Because the other thing too is Pritchard and White are so cheap, and also that it's a 2-game slate, which also changes the dynamic. But if Pritchard goes out and scores 18 fantasy points and Derrick White scores 25, there's a pretty good chance both of them land in the optimal lineup at that kind of output. And then you just need, and then also Robert Williams is so absurdly cheap that then you just need, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum to have a good game. And then you either get Al Horford and Robert Williams. Like, these guys are going to produce fantasy points in different ways. And just across the board, everybody's underpriced.
All right. Anything else for you from forward?
No, we do have some questions in the Discord channel we could answer here. Also,
I got one super chat here that came in.
Okay.
Oliver, I know you tried to do it again. You sneaky bastard. You almost got me again. Handsome looking haircut, Greg.
Thank you.
Confirmed. Eric A. That was not nice. White or Melton in a lineup with Pritchard, DK, GPP?
First off, the hope with the haircut is I get to do what Oliver's name is. And let's see, White or Melton in a lineup. It's easily Derrick White. Easily Derrick White. Lock button play for me today.
All right, go ahead and pull up the premium Discord here. I'm going to actually fix one thing on my end quick.
Cool. So while you're doing that, Ghetto Farmer Boy left us a question in here. He said he bet the over on Bane at 4.5 rebounds. And then about 20 seconds later, he got downgraded to questionable. He can't cancel the bet. Is there any way to get creative and hedge if he plays? I think he's probably going to play, but I don't think there's anything that's problematic about you having that bet.
I don't either. And you understand that it's not like it cashes as an under if he doesn't play. Like, if he doesn't play, it's just graded as a no contest. Like, you're getting your money back. So
yeah, I mean, he said, is there any way to get creative and hedge if he plays? No, you just ride it out. It's no big deal. You have that bet.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Looking at Odd Shopper, it's not the apocalypse. That's for sure. So I will get to that. Oh, by the way, Odd Shopper, presenting sponsor here of the NBA Live Before Lock show. We should talk about them before we should talk about centers here. It's the best place that you can find bets in 30 seconds or less. Expected ROI. If you have legal sports betting in your state, if you have the opportunity to utilize all of the great promos that we have up on the Awesemo site, showing you exactly where to utilize them, which sports books to utilize them at, you will have access to a number of different books that allow for you to shop for the best odds. That makes expected ROI the most important thing you can group your board by here. Go to best projected ROI, go to the state that you're located in. I'm just currently doing it off of Arizona. That's the closest state to me with legalized sports betting. So I'm simply looking there and I see Gary Payton II steals over 1.5, 42% expected ROI. Yeah, it only hits 51% of the time, expected win percentage of 51%, but plus 180, that is a drastic bump up for when it does hit, when he does get to 2 there. If he starts Yahtzee, you're probably looking at an even better projection because as I understand, looking at our projections, Gary Payton II at 21 minutes, I doubt that that's a starter's allotment. It could be for sure. You could still just play 21 minutes in that kind of a situation, but gives you some extra outs. I feel pretty good that that's when you should get on, as well as Klay Thompson over 3.5 rebounds. You can see exactly which site you should be betting it at and what the expected ROI and expected win percentages are. Klay Thompson over 3.5 rebounds. I think that looks fantastic as well. Greg, what sticks out to you on the odd shopper board today?
Yeah, so I would also go to Klay Thompson over 3.5 rebounds. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. As for Gary Payton, he would have to start for me to want to take over 1.5 steals. It's just hard for me to imagine he's all that likely to have multiple steals if he comes off the bench. It would be a downgrade to his minutes. So that's also something that we should keep in mind is anybody, if they're on a team where a key player is questionable or somebody's role is kind of in doubt, wait for a little bit of confirmation or else it's just something that's hard to project for. But the one you mentioned before, I think makes the most sense. Klay Thompson over 3.5 rebounds.
Yeah. So check out oddshopper.com. Go take a look at the best spots to go make these bets at. Plus, if you're playing prize picks on OddShopper specifically, guys like me in California, they now have the parlay builder. You simply click on that prize picks parlay builder that is on the main screen, and you are taken directly to a spot where you have access to so many great parlays, able to find the best things with expected win percentage in mind. The over 3 rebounds for Jordan Poole, 75% expected win percentage. That is good times. Utilize that. It really comes in handy in my process. I know it will come in handy for yours as well. Check out OddShopper right now. And we'll be talking about them for half an hour after the slate. But first, we have 9 minutes before lock. Let's talk center, starting with Jeff Williams, super chat, $4.99 from him. Horford and Lopez, he said, or Allen, but I don't think we're playing Grayson Allen, or Rob Williams and Brooks for a high dollar GPP on DK. So Horford and Lopez or Rob Williams and Brooks.
Robert Williams and Dylan Brooks.
I'm with you. Robert Williams, you talked about him at the center, 4,900 on DraftKings. How much are you getting to?
Yeah, I really like Robert Williams. I think that he is the most undervalued center play on this slate. It's a price tag for Robert Williams that if we would have seen it a few weeks or more than a few weeks ago before he got injured, would have jumped all over. You know what this feels like to me? Very similar. The same exact situation you and I talked about last night with Devin Booker and Chris Paul.
Yes,
over the entire regular season. Yep. I'll ask you the same question, the same way I did yesterday.
We had the freaking nuts yesterday if it weren't for that Paul Reed bullshit garbage crap of God knows what.
In hindsight, though, I have no regrets playing 0% of Paul Reed. And what I ended up, one of the main reasons I still made money on the slate, I knew it was because I was so high on Devin Booker as a contrarian play relative to a 2-game slate. But you give Paul Reed 13 minutes, more often than not, he doesn't have a good fantasy game. So I don't have any regrets about that. But in terms of the Al Horford, Robert Williams thing, the same way we viewed the Chris Paul and Devin Booker dynamic yesterday. So, Eric, over the course of the regular season, who is generally more expensive, Al Horford or Robert Williams?
That would be Robert Williams.
And who is more popular, Robert Williams or Al Horford?
Me.
Go ahead.
Robert Williams.
Yet, once again, we have on this slate, Robert Williams is less expensive and Al Horford is more popular. We have all the same question marks with Robert Williams that we had last night with Devin Booker, where we don't know for sure how healthy he is, but there's a chance that he's 100%. And he was such a high upside player, especially for Fanduel purposes with the defensive stats in the regular season, that I want to be overweight to Robert Williams. I prefer Robert Williams to Al Horford on this slate. And I think he should be a really high priority play for tournaments. Cash games, there's enough question marks where if you're playing cash on a 2-game slate, maybe you don't totally feel comfortable with it. But I think that's a really good pivot to make for tournaments, the same way that I pivoted from Chris Paul to Devin Booker yesterday.
Eddie Seha. I don't think they're nearly the same thing, but I know exactly what you mean, and I like the bit. Eddie Seha, $5. DKGPP, Draymond and Melton, or Grant Williams and Bane, or Klay Thompson and Kyle Anderson. So it's a 2v2v2. Draymond and Melton, Grant Williams and Bane, or Klay Thompson and Kyle Anderson.
Draymond, Melton. So definitely not Grant Williams and Bane. It's Draymond and Melton for me.
It is Draymond and Melton for me as well. Nice. Just wanted to read it over again one more time. Nice. Yeah, great success. Rest of the center position, we should probably cover that. I think I'm playing a lot of these power forwards at the center spot on DK, but I guess we got to talk about Brook Lopez. Is he somebody getting into any of your lineups today?
No. And, for a 2-game slate, it's hard to say plays 0% of anybody, but he's a very, very low priority option for me. So Brook Lopez has not been a good fantasy producer overall this season. I get that Chris Middleton's out, but still, you look at the playoffs for him, he's averaging, let's see, 24 fantasy points in the playoffs. I just don't think there's that much of a ceiling in Brook Lopez because I think he's a good rebounder in real life. People just hate on him for not rebounding because he's tall and he doesn't get rebounds, but he's a very effective rebounder. He does a really good job blocking guys out. Ultimately, it ends up being Giannis who typically pulls down the rebounds. But for fantasy purposes, he basically only contributes points, threes, and blocks, and he's not a high usage guy at all at this point in his career. So here's his usage rates in the playoffs in the last few games. 10.6% in game 1, 15.9% the last game against the Bulls, 12% the game before, 16.2% before that. Even with Middleton out, he's not shooting a ton. So, what are you banking on here? That he goes 6 of 6 from 3? I just don't see where the upside is.
I totally get it. I think that pretty much concludes this portion of the program because center don't need to really talk about anything else, do we?
I've got questions in Discord, but Discord's being really dumb, and there's just a sticker of a snail that covers the entire page, which I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Let me pull it up here as I'm going because I got it to work.
I don't know what this snail means.
I don't know what the snail is even referring to, but I'm looking at it. You still like Robert Williams over Horford on FD as well. A little bit different price discrepancy.
Yes. I prefer Robert Williams to Al Horford.
Perfect. White is 4K in Showdown. Yeah, you just play a ton of him in Showdown here as well. Guys, smash the like button. My God, why is our like button number so low right now? We need likes. We need some validation for the things that we are doing here right now. Greg and myself, I need way over 600, 1.9K of you guys hanging out here. We really appreciate it. And over 2,000 people here talking a 2-game NBA slate for the playoffs. The NBA is so great. If you enjoyed our content as much, just hit the like button. That's really all we ask. 4 minutes left to go here, Greg. Anything you're noticing in your lineups that you really need the people to know right now before lock?
Not really. It's a 2-game slate, and I feel like we're really able to cover everything in depth. Mm-hmm. It's not like other bigger slates where we're getting slammed with news and there's a lot going on. There was no weird starting lineup from Glenn Rivers in the middle of the show that sidetracked us. So
I knew you had to weave it in eventually.
Yeah, we're kind of able to get everything. Oh, we do have one more question here. I got the Discord working. The snail went away.
Cool.
From Supac, OOP, better pay up on Fanduel, Ja Morant or Jason Tatum. That is Morant for me.
That is going to be... I like both good options. A lot. I like Tatum a lot. I'm so biased against Ja Morant, and I think Ja Morant's really fun to watch play basketball, but I'll go Tatum just because I want all the correlation. Just give me all the Boston, all the Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, no, I think that also makes sense. Just for me, once again, one thing that kind of limits my exposure to Jason Tatum and why I end up with more of Morant is there's just other guys from Boston that I like more. And then it gets hard to jam in a whole bunch of Tatum because it's like, well, I've already got Time Lord. I've already got Al Horford. I've already got Jaylen Brown. I've already got Derrick White. And you're capped at 4 players from the Celtics on FanDuel. And that just somewhat limits him.
Hey, yo, D, don't go, Eric and Greg, sad face. Well, we're not going anywhere. We've got MLB stuff too. Make sure you get your MLB lineups in. That locks in, 7 minutes. I'm all set to go, I think. I'll double check here in a minute, but looking forward to that slate. But we're going to be sweating this NBA action as it tips off. We're going to be talking through some odd shopper. We're going to be talking year-long bets. It's amazing how fast that half hour goes talking with Greg. We've had a really fun time doing it the last few days. We're sweating some serious Celtics future here for Greg Ehrenberg. So if you guys would like to do the same, hang out with us. We're not going anywhere. Plus Jordan Klein, he's a bad boy for life. He ain't going nowhere. He can't be stopped now.
Well, the other thing that's unfortunate is I've got my bet on the Bucks too today, so it's going to be all kinds of conflicting emotions.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. Did they take off? What is the cash out option currently? Like what X over however much money you had inserted? I'm just curious what the return on investment would be. You don't have to give us the exact number.
I'm pretty sure it's 6x last I looked.
Okay,
let's see. I'll pull it up right now.
Are you tempted at all to click on it?
Not really.
Yeah, I figured you'd be the guy. Just kind of let it ride.
Let's see. So it is because I also don't know if it's changed since the Marcus Smart news, because it's very possible that it's changed since then. It is 6.3x is the cash out.
3.6. Okay. Well,
no, 6.3.
Oh, 6.3. That's beautiful stuff. That, yeah. I mean, you're still living. Again, regardless of what you thought, and again, I picked Milwaukee to win the title forever ago. I have not changed off that stance for 2 years. Yeah, look at that. Jordan Klein, he's with me. We were kind of in the same camp there. But I said it before we even started that game, because obviously I picked Milwaukee, but I said I would much rather just be in a situation where the best value was always on Boston, and I missed the boat on it. You got in with the best value. There is no questioning that. And anybody else who wants to say to the contrary is just dumb. They're wrong.
Yeah, I think most people would like the Celtics 60-1 to win the title right now. But in terms of who I think is more likely to win the series at this point in time, it's the Bucks. I just don't want to bet the Bucks. Like it's not something I'm really looking to hedge or cash out at the moment. It doesn't mean I expect to win. I just think it's good value.
I think it's phenomenal value. You done good. Corbin Burns part 2. I'm actually cheering for you more because, again, I have very limited money on Milwaukee. You have very much money on the Boston side. I will cheer for you. I want happiness for you. And I want it for all of chat here too. Smash the like button, subscribe button. As we jump over to the half hour after program, we're at lock. My favorite portion of the program today is ownership. We did it last time. We're going to do it to start off the show today. And there's nobody else that we could possibly start with, Greg, here, other than what do you think in the $20 contest on DraftKings is Derrick White's ownership?
All right. So I think one thing that we found out lately with some of these really super chalk plays is that they've ended up being a little more popular than what we thought they would be in the $20. But now with that said, Derrick White was projected for a whole shit ton of ownership. I haven't pulled up my phone and opened up the DK app yet, but I'm going to say he came in at 80%.
67.8%.
Ooh, I love that.
Let's go.
It sounds so dumb, but Derrick White is underowned today.
He's underowned.
He's underowned.
Look at the boom bust tool. The boom bust tool. Sorry, my voice did a really high thing there. 64.5% of the time.
Boom bust tool. What? You got really excited about Derrick White, didn't you? I like Eric.
Between your haircut and Derrick White and the boom bust tool, it was just a lot to handle.
Eric goes mid-puberty as soon as a player he really likes in DFS goes underowned.
Boom bust tool, emphasis on the bust. We'll go next guy up on the board, Giannis. What do you think his ownership ended up being?
Giannis. I guess 40%.
49.1%. That's fascinating. As you get value infused, naturally, Giannis is going to go up in ownership. And I kind of was approximating around that. Normally, Giannis in this kind of a situation, I would just have a ton of. I thought it was viable enough with Curry, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all these other guys. It was hard for me to just jam him all in. I will say that. But Robert Williams, your boy. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say with Giannis, though, with Derrick White being lesser owned than I expected, that also made me think that Giannis was going to be lesser owned than expected, because that made me think that people were playing less of the value.
That's true.
So I'm kind of curious so Pritchard must be more popular than expected then.
Oh, just I want you to guess Peyton Pritchard next.
Okay, so I feel like this has been spoiled a little bit because I'm just using logic here. If Derrick White is lower owned than we expected and Giannis is higher owned than we expected, therefore Peyton Pritchard also has to be higher owned than we expected. So I'll say like 65% for him.
Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
31.1%.
All right, now I'm just totally confused now then.
Like,
what did people do
confused.
So what did people do for value?
No,
to get up
clue.
to Giannis.
People played D'Anthony Melton. Let's be serious. People played D'Anthony Melton over these two guys.
Which, I mean, I like Melton. I think he's a good play, but then I guess Melton's going to be what, like 25, 30% owned?
Yeah, I really think that's going to be what it is. And I'm looking around. Yeah, man, I'm telling you right now, it's going to get weird. It's going to get weird. Why don't you tell me Al Horford?
I have not been good on this so far. I'll just say Horford 40%.
37.1%.
Okay,
you should just go with your instincts. Trust your instincts, Luke.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot better than the other ones. I will say Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard are unbelievably low owned compared to what I expected them to be. I have like 100% and 68. I had 54%. I ended up with 68% in my final run on DK. Madness, I tell you.
Derrick White, I said it before, he's a lock button for me, Derrick White.
Yeah, he was. Let's go with Jaylen Brown.
50%?
45.6%.
All right, it's in the neighborhood.
And I think, just for the sake of moving on, well, what is Grayson Allen's ownership, do you think?
Oh, I have no clue. He's somebody I did not think about. I don't know. 8%?
17.8%. That's a lot. I have zero. I have zero. That's why I just saw that and stopped on it and just kind of laughed to myself a little bit. Oh my God. Al Horford. Just Horford, no cash.
Well, yeah, hey, it's over. If you didn't play Al Horford has everything for the Celtics so far.
Sure does.
2 points, a rebound, assist, a steal, doing everything.
Oh, Al, you're going to make it hurt. Jaylen Brown with the bucket there. Robert Williams with the rebound there. Yeah, Jaylen Brown from 3. 7-0 Boston. This game tipped off. That's so nice of them. I like when these games tip off before, even like 5 minutes over, because we're able to track it throughout the entire show. Little watch along. Rinpack, ask Jordan Klein to turn on producer cam and show the audience his right hand. What'd you do to your right hand, Jordan Klein? Nothing?
Did he get in a dust up and punch somebody?
What'd you do? You got in a fight? Hello.
Is there something
right hand? That was your left hand. That was your left that you just waved with.
Yeah.
Oh, it flipped on the camera. Interesting. Oh, fascinating. Oh, there.
I know what he's getting at, but we're gonna ignore.
Oh, we're gonna ignore him. All right, Rinpack, just one of the best players in the entire world. Proud member of the NBA tip-off group chat. No big deal. NBD fam. Let's talk Odd Shopper. Let's do this because we're watching this live. Prize Picks, I'm going to look at some second quarter stuff. I always want to be, some second half stuff. I always want to be reacting to the games live, but let's look ahead here. Let's look ahead to Memphis. Let's look ahead to Golden State. I think there's some different stuff that could happen with the starting lineup. There's some different stuff that could happen in terms of injuries. Zaire Williams and, of course, Desmond Bane, both questionable. Is there anything that you see in the prop market that you might want to attack, barring any injury news or any starting lineup news, Greg?
All right, let's refresh and see what we're looking at here. I mean, we just rehashed what we did before. So Klay Thompson should see more minutes this game. In game 1, what happened with Klay? He got into very early foul trouble. If memory serves correct, he played 9 first half minutes. He's going to play a lot more than this game. Jordan Poole is going to play less. And as long as Klay is able to avoid foul trouble, I think the over 3.5 rebounds is a really good prop to look at. If you look at the numbers for Klay over the course of the regular season, he averaged, pulling it up. If I remember, it was right around 4 boards. Yeah, 3.8 rebounds in the regular season for Klay Thompson. And that was only in 30 minutes per game. We're looking at extended minutes now for Klay, well north of that. So I think it's reasonable to project him for over 4 rebounds. We have him project for 4.8 today. That looks all well and good for me. So I also like Klay Thompson over 3.5 rebounds.
Yep, I'm with you. I think that one really stood out to me as well. Talked about that before the show. I think that's still the one that I want to be reacting to the most and getting to Prize Picks purposes as well as sports betting. So you lucky bastards in legalized states. Definitely take advantage of that. Use all the promo codes and then use OddsShopper to help you identify the best projected ROI bets. We've got that Jaren Jackson, the under on 1.5 threes plus 140. I could take it or leave it. 31% expected ROI. I think that's starting to be in the threshold where it could be of really good value. But Jaren Jackson Jr., I think we're both on the train where we're cheering for him to do good things today. Probably don't want to be looking at betting an under on a guy that I'm already pretty invested in. It depends. It can be hit or miss, but for Jaren Jackson Jr. to really pay off with my investment of him today, kind of looking for more than 1.5 threes out of him. Desmond Bane, I still, as I said, that bet you made over 4.5 rebounds plus 130, 57% expected win percentage if he ends up playing in this game. That looks all well and good to me too. So no panic should be in store for anybody who bet Desmond Bane there in that spot. We have Robert Williams, who checked out 3.5 minutes into this game. You now got a lineup of Grant Williams alongside the 4 other starters there. People are saying Derrick White looks lost. He's just getting going. It's 4 minutes into the game. You're fine. Relax.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing also is that he's really cheap. So I'm pulling up the box score right now. The game were really low scoring. Boston defense on point, but one other point to make also here: 7-3, 4 minutes in. There isn't that much to react to, other than almost everybody played in this game who isn't Jaylen Brown or Al Horford sucks right now. Is a lot of people were talking about Boston's defense being like, oh, like look, Giannis just destroyed them. The issue in game 1 with Boston was not their defense. Their defense was really good. They sucked on offense. They shot like 33% from the field, and that was only because the shooting percentage went up in garbage time. The issue was entirely the offense. Giannis had like a 40% true shooting percentage that game. It was just Boston couldn't score at all that game.
Yeah, I'm not even like remotely looking into it. I'm with you. It's just is what it is. God, I have some kind of a bug going on where I keep getting this Lucius Fox character. Is that confirmed? Did we find out if Lucius Fox is the guy who makes Batman's weapons?
Yeah, it is.
It is? Okay. He's also a backup shortstop for Washington.
Jordan thought I made that up.
No, Jordan, Greg Ehrenberg. If there was somebody in our group chat to make something up, he's the least likely candidate. We all know number 1, Joey Corman, he's lying, dirty cheat. Yeah, shake your head. SMH. Grayson Allen checking in for Jrue Holiday. 9-3, 3 points for the Milwaukee Bucks through 5 minutes of this basketball game. Just going to throw it out there and say that that's not ideal. Jason Tatum for 3, 12-3. Giannis out there shooting long range, mid range jumpers. 0 for 5 from the field to start off. Boston confirmed doing things on Giannis.
Which once again, they did in game 1. So the shooting numbers for Giannis, I'll pull that up right here. So game 1, by the way, the Bucks scored 101 points. It's not like they were gangbusters there. Giannis scored 24 points on 25 field goal attempts. That's not some kind of great efficiency. The issue with Boston was Tatum shot 6 of 18 from the field. Brown shot 4 of 13. Horford shot 4 of 11. Smart shot 3 of 11. The only player who was in the rotation that made half of their shots, or actually the only player who was in the rotation who even made more than 36% of their shots, was Robert Williams. Nobody else was able to do anything.
Not great.
The Bucks had 3 points halfway through the first quarter.
I'm watching this and just can't believe it. Grant Williams for 3 after a rebound. Grant Williams 3 and 2 to start off this game. Oh boy, 15-3 Boston on top. Good thing I didn't just jam all in Giannis. I guess that would be one good thing going for me in this situation. I've been making more aggressive stands on these two gamers. I've enjoyed it sometimes. I've enjoyed it less sometimes, like when John Morant goes completely nuts, but a little bit higher on John Morant here today. Comparably. There we go. Comparatively. I had it right the first time. I had to double check myself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I wrecked myself anyway.
Is that what happened with your butthole at the beginning of the show? You still haven't explained that.
What?
Jordan, confirm for me. We need the producer cam here. True or false that he said something about his butthole at the top of the show?
No, I did not.
I plead the fifth. I can't recall and I don't remember.
All right. It's all right. Somebody in YouTube chat will clip it for us, or at least they're going to back me up. They know, everybody knows he said something.
Jordan Klein, just remember.
It's on camera.
Just remember, if you want to see your godson, you will be respectful.
There we go.
Mhm.
Mike Lawrence, the legend Awesemo, says he already clipped it for me.
I hate you, Mike. You're the worst. Absolute
Good man.
stone-cold worst.
Best producer at the company named Mike Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clips. There we go. So you can't deny it. There's video evidence. Gonna make you explain yourself.
To shoot out my butthole? I said that?
Yeah, you did, and everybody was confused.
What's wrong with me?
I don't know. You said that. I was
Wash
like,
my mouth out with soap. What did I do?
You said that, and I was really confused. And you totally, like 30 seconds later, you had blacked out of your mind. I was like, could you go back and explain what you said about that? And you're like, I didn't say that.
I feel like 10-second Tom from 50 First Dates. Oh, hey, I'm Tom.
It was definitely.
Oh, hey, I'm Tom.
I mean, I guess.
A little bit of that. Oh my gosh. 10-second Tom or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Whatever. Can't even say his name right. 15-3 timeout here. 5.5 into it. I mean, this is just kind of crazy what Boston is able to do in some of these spots. I mean, Giannis, let's be serious. Gonna take a lot of shots. I'm not concerned about Giannis here in the early going. Sure. 0 for 6 from the field. 0 fantasy points in 5.5 minutes. Such is life. They need to go out and try to keep it going here. You don't want to have to. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You got 1 in Boston. That feels good, but Boston's been so good on the road still this entire season. What are they? 51-31 for the season, 28-13 at home. So what does that make it? 23-18 on the road. I mean, that's still pretty solid.
Yeah, any panic on you for Derrick White yet? We are. Well, I mean, the other thing too is the Bucks as a team, they have 3 points halfway through the first quarter. Mm-hmm. Then from the Celtics side, we have negative fantasy points right now for Derrick White. Are you panicking at all yet?
No, I'm not. He's sub 4K. It's not like we need him to go completely bonkers. Plus, he's playing alongside the likes of Jason Tatum, playing alongside the likes of Jaylen Brown. Al Horford got off to a hot start. Grant Williams knocked down a 3. I mean, he's the 4th or 5th option there. He's kind of going to be scoring based to a certain extent. It's not like he's coming off the bench. He's still on the floor, though, 5.5 minutes in. So for everybody saying that he's not playing well or doing whatever else, they're obviously doing very well defensively with him involved. If they thought he was so poor, as you said before, he's a good defender. Going back to San Antonio to this stint with Boston, obviously there's still some serious skill there on the defensive end. Jaylen Brown gets a block and a rebound there. My God, this is
you're a little ahead of me, but yeah, I just saw him block.
18-3. My God, what is occurring?
I mean, I'm cool with this. If my Bucks +5 bet loses here, I would have liked the middle, but if it gets my Celtics back live in the playoffs, I could deal with it.
Hey, Jrue Holiday, welcome to the program, dude. He ends up knocking down a bucket, 18-6. He checked in. Giannis off the floor. They always do this. Don't freak out about this for Giannis. He checks back in like the 2-minute mark or 3-minute mark of the first quarter. But it's a way to quickly stagger it. They get Grayson Allen on the floor. Then they bring Jrue and they take Giannis off. That's just what always happens. Robert Williams back on the floor, though. Is that for sure? Did I just see Robert Williams? When did he check in? I don't even remember.
At the last TV timeout.
Okay.
He came in for Horford.
Bucket. Grant Williams. Yeah. This is just annoying.
No,
Robert
that was.
Robert
so
Williams,
how much time? I'm at 5:04, 5:03,
4:37. You just had Jrue Holiday make a bucket, then Grant Williams bucket. Yeah, Grant Williams 8-2. This is just a thing that's happening in the world, and it's bad.
What was the ownership on Grant Williams? Let's see. I'll pull up the.
Get low like an 8-game winner.
Don't do that again. All right, let's see.
Naked, soaking wet, she naked, soaking wet, shake it like a salt.
You know what's crazy?
Shake it like a salt. Shake it.
Did you make? You're really upsetting me right now. Did you make showdown lineups?
Yeah, I made one just to talk about it competently, and then per usual, I just play a lot of showdown for the second one. The prize pools are generally bigger anyway.
Derrick White is 63% owned in showdown.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
He's also not playing well, so maybe the joke's on us. But I mean, that is a fairly egregious ownership. Oh my God. I just saw what Jaylen Brown did to Grayson Allen. Did you see that?
I know. I clicked off of it. What happened?
He just crossed him up and Grayson Allen had to sit on his ass around the free throw line.
He should have to do that anyway. Take time out. They need like a penalty box for the NBA. A guy like Draymond gets like, he should get a major misconduct, like, or something like that. Instead of a flagrant 2, they should have to like penalty box him for 6 minutes.
I would be fine with that. If you change the flagrant 1 is like, hey, this guy can't play the rest of the quarter or something.
Yep. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Are you implying that they play a man down as well?
No. You don't have to do like power play. I'm just saying he would have to come off the floor and you'd have to make adjustments. Like 6 minutes of game time run, he would have to sit out. And then if you're like inside the last 6 minutes, again, there's so many other quirky rules that have showed up. We all know now inside of 2 minutes, it takes 2 fouls to basically make it the bonus. They've eliminated the single bonus entirely. It's only double bonus in the NBA. There's so many things that are so specific. I've always wondered, it's like removing a player for 6 fouls is still pretty egregious because Jaren Jackson Jr. is really fun to watch. Instead of adding more fouls or taking some away, you should say if you get 2 fouls in a quarter, you have to sit out the rest of the quarter, or 3, you sit out the rest of the quarter. I think stuff like that is way more interesting, allows for your best players to still showcase, and you have opportunity to, like, Jaren Jackson Jr. could have up to 8 fouls in the game, but anytime he accumulates 2 1/4, he has to sit the rest of the quarter. I think that's way more interesting.
I don't know. Anytime you get 2 1/4, because it's whatever. It's kind of an arbitrary number. There was a point in time in basketball, I forget where it was they played this rule, but it used to be a thing where if you played and if you had 2 fouls in the first quarter, you weren't allowed to play the rest of the first quarter. Then you couldn't, if you had 3 fouls in the second quarter, you couldn't play anymore. 4 fouls in the, this game is getting very out of hand quickly. And has Jaylen Brown missed a shot yet?
No, he's missed 1, 5 for 6 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3.
Okay, because I was going to say, every time I'm looking up, he's
holy mother of God. Pritchard for
so
3.
Good.
Yeah, they're very good, and they're pissed. And so now you're running into like a pissed good Boston team. Here we go. Saddle up, partner. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
I wonder what the takes are. If this game keeps up like this, what are the Giannis takes going to be after this game?
They're going to be egregious, whatever they are.
Yeah, everything's so reactionary about who's the best player in the NBA at the point in time. The best player is whoever played the best in the last game that happened. The most overrated player is whoever struggled in the game that just finished.
What did you just say? What'd you just say again? Say it again.
That the reactionary of people. The best player in the NBA is always who played the best in the game that just finished. The most overrated player is whoever struggled in the most recent game.
There we go. Okay. That makes way more sense. There we go. Promise. I'm doing okay, fam. I'm doing okay. I'm not okay.
Yeah. So we've got fantasy point totals for this game now. The only guys that really matter right now are Jaylen Brown, Al Horford for the Celtics. For the Bucks, I mean, I guess Jrue Holiday is playing okay. Everybody else is absolutely egregiously terrible.
Yep, things are occurring that are bad in the world. I mean, what do we even say? I mean, this has just gotten like ridiculous. 30-12 right off the bat. A lot of basketball left here for Milwaukee, but no Chris Middleton was going to catch up to you in one of these games. For damn sure. This is starting to show out a little bit. Oh, it's almost like if Grayson Allen doesn't go out and shoot 60% from 3, they might be in trouble.
But I mean, beyond that, also the Celtics aren't going to shoot 33% from the field every game.
No.
But it's one game. They haven't won this game yet either. It's an 18-point game, and we're 10 minutes in. Long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go, but going to be funny regardless. Going to be fun regardless. We're having fun with it. I'm looking at my baseball lineups here too. I did some egregious things today. It's not going to go well.
What were said egregious things?
I have almost 100% of course field.
Oh, wow. That is a lot.
Yeah. It's a multitude. It's a massive slate. Looking at some of the ownership, there's certain days like this where if people are going to I think people are going to play a lot of Marquez more than they probably like. He was really low projected, but he always ends up being a little bit higher than I expect him to be. And I like Marquez a lot. He has been very, very bad to start off this season. And this pricing is just so egregious that I'm just going to hit the all in button, like on all of these guys. I'm there in such an egregious way today.
Yeah, so I did the strategy show this morning, but then I didn't have time to build baseball lineups because I had to get my hair cut, had to do my photo shoot for the baseball VOD, and then I had to get ready for the basketball show. So I didn't look that much at the baseball slate past the morning. So I only knew earlier today when I was doing it, the Nationals were projected for like an egregious amount of ownership, but I don't know what that looked like by the time we got to lock.
Yeah, and I didn't play a single share of any Angel. So we'll see what happens here in this regard. Looking at the top stacks, well, it's just one of those spots where like Colorado just blew this slate away from me, and Washington kind of, their ownership share is ridiculous, but I just played a ton of both of them, like just a crazy, crazy amount of both of them. Went way over the field rather than trying to spread myself so thin. Because like I always play a lot of Houston. They're always positively leveraged. I seem to always play them. The Angels, though, are going over owned and they're just really expensive. And so I just said, you know what? I'll just take what I'm seeing. I'm going to play a lot of Woodruff, Rodon, all the guys that I want to play a ton of, jam in 5 mans of Colorado and just value bats around them from Washington. And that's kind of what I did with 150 lineups.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Once again, I didn't build lineups, so I don't know what I would have ended up doing. Yeah. I assume I probably would have played 0 of Washington and just took them out of my player pool, but I don't know because I didn't end up doing it.
Yeah. This is the only day I actually don't do MLB shows. So this is kind of fun for me to just recreational play and kick it and enjoy it the same way that Celtics fans aren't kicking and enjoying it here at the moment as Milwaukee makes a quick little run here. It looks like 27-15 here.
Yeah, they took Peyton Pritchard's 3 got taken off the board.
Yeah, it wasn't in time. Didn't beat the shot clock, apparently. Is that what I'm reading? Is that correct? Cool. Yeah. Pat Connaughton for 3 now. 27-15. That's a big difference, obviously, in the landscape of the game. 18-point lead as opposed to 15 and now 12. Moving in the right direction for Milwaukee, but going to be interesting. Man, we're already 25 minutes into this extra half hour. How did that happen?
Well, we were watching the game. We got to guess some ownerships. What was that foul? They call it on Jaylen Brown or Giannis there? They called it on Jaylen Brown. Dude, Giannis is just the juggernaut on offense. It's weird. There are very few players that could initiate as much contact as he does, where the fouls get called on the defense and not the offense.
You guys don't.
Do you ever feel that when you watch Giannis? If there was ever just a reffing crew that was a little more heavily leaned towards charges as opposed to defensive fouls, that Giannis would just become like Jaren Jackson Jr. in some of these games.
Yeah, I feel that way a lot. I mean, we saw what happened at the end of that last series against Chicago. I said he just put his head down and just started taking these bulldozer charges. Hey, good job, Giannis. He's on the board. 41.8 seconds left here in the quarter. Welcome to the program, my friend. 1 for 7 from the field. Mm-hmm. Just shout out. 8-point game, Greg. Oh boy, it's going to be an interesting game. I hope you can middle this. That would be the absolute nuts. Celtics win. Yeah. Celtics win by 4. That's what I'm cheering for.
By the way, for the Celtics rotation, only 7 guys in the first quarter.
Only 7 guys. Yeah.
Do you think we see Daniel Tice at all today? Or is it going to be a 7-man rotation?
I think it's a 7-man rotation, unless there's a blowout, in which case you get whoever the fuck. But I mean, we have 7 guys. It's 7 guys that are playing basketball today.
I think there's a possibility for Tice to play 1 rotation in the first. Oh my God, what a ridiculous shot that Jaylen Brown.
Jesus.
I think there's potential for 1 rotation for Tice in the first half and the second half. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the second quarter and plays 4 minutes and then checks out and then gets 8 for the game.
I'm pretty happy with my 68% Jaylen Brown exposure. That feels good.
Yeah, I feel good about pretty much everything other than 100% Derrick White right now.
I have 100% Derrick White too. But here's the thing. It was the right play. I'm just interested in making the right play every single day. And especially now that we know what his ownership is. Yeah. If you had told me his ownership before the show started, I would have just played 100%. I would have been like, what are we even talking about? We don't even have anything to talk about.
I mean, the other thing too is there's still a lot of time left in the game. If he scores 20 fantasy points, he's fine. But I do think after he scored negative fantasy points in the first quarter, I think the expectation for him and Melton is probably fairly similar at this point.
I don't know why I swore more today. I don't know what it is. Normally, you hear other people do it. And nobody ever brings it up to them. Nobody would ever be like, Lofty said the F word. Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's because you have such a wholesome image.
I do. And now I'm here to be the bad boy of Awesemo.com. It's not true. Sorry about it again.
Yeah. So, but you kind of have this like, oh, shucks demeanor to you, whereas Laufey doesn't. Do you know what I mean though?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's my casting, if you will.
Yeah. What were the parts that you would go out for when you were acting?
It was just like young lawyer, intern. It was a lot of it would always be, well, no, I went out for a lot of, so one of my main things was I kind of had the ability for a lot of like for anything casting directors that knew me, I was always the nice guy who ended up being the guy who actually did the murder at the end of every NCIS episode or something like that. That was always the thing that I got called in for the most, was being the person who came in and did that kind of a role where he was nice, wholesome, likable at the beginning of it, and then just murdered people.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah, I had that ability. But anyway, that's the end of our show today. On that lovely note, looking forward to watching the rest of this game. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. We still have 600 people hanging out with Greg and myself. Hopefully you had as much fun as we did. At least I think Greg had fun. He looks great anyway. Nice haircut. Smash the like button, subscribe button, but please hit that like button the most. We both like saying egregious. Greg and I both do. It's a fun word. You should try it out, chat. But Greg, any final words for the people?
Yeah, egregious has Greg in the middle of it. Why would I not say it?
What, Jordan Klein?
Look what EMAG just said in the chat. Just go look what EMAG just said.
Thank you so much to Jordan Klein for producing the show today. He did a great job. Greg Ehrenberg, appreciate all the analysis, all the insight, per usual. Always fun to talk basketball. We're going to be talking some baseball tomorrow morning. Come check it out. He's Greg. He's got a nice haircut. I'm Eric. I need one badly. Screw you, EMAC. I'm going home.
Clear your search history, EMAC, if the mics are still on.
Yeah, no kidding. Half marathon.